Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most terrifying show on the planet Earth, Professor Screw-Eye's Eccentric Circus!
You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
the podcast where we talk about all of the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders
and under our beds
and in our closets.
And together we'll realize, whoa, that's pretty dark.
Pretty dark.
Face achy.
Face
That's
achy.
the kind of sick.
That could be like a Bad Company situation where it's like face achy off face achy by face achy.
Please no.
Oh God.
But I can see writing a song about it because it feels like hell.
Yeah. No, I can't do words either. No, my ADHD.
We're
is
discussing
so bad.
how we like to write our notes. You know, it's always a creative process. And lately, I've just been going to the Lo-Fi Beats playlist on Spotify.
Heck yeah.
And I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to be honest. I used to hate any type of lo-fi music. I'm a big lyrics person.
Really? Oh, you are a lyrics person.
Yeah, I'm just like a major lyrics person. Not that I don't appreciate an instrumental, but if I'm going to listen to music, that's not what I'm going to go to.
Right.
But lately, when I've been writing, my ADHD has like fully arrived in my life now. Like I'm convinced it wasn't this bad when I was younger.
Mine wasn't.
I turned 30 and it was like, here's all of these symptoms to deal with. You're a slave to your ADHD now.
How are we the same person, actually?
We are. We always have been.
It's true.
We just process it differently.
Nothing's ever changed.
So I can't listen to music with lyrics while I write anymore, which is kind of depressing, but the Lo-Fi Beats playlist has been saving me. And I described something as face achy a moment ago, and Christian said that's the perfect title for a lo-fi song.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to agree. Now that I'm paying attention to that, 100%.
That's actually how I used to decide bands I liked back in college. If I could do a night's worth of homework, like all the reading I had to do, all the research and the papers I had to write, if it just got me in the zone, I knew it was a good album.
You knew you didn't have to pay attention to it, which is the exact opposite of what most recording artists hope when they put out music.
I know. But that's how I discovered all my like favorite bands, like Interpol even.
Really?
I mean, you know how much they mean to me.
Yeah.
That's one of the bands I discovered in college because I could just put them on and then not hear a single thing.
Which is crazy. Because, I used to determine my favorite bands based on exactly the opposite. I had to know every word.
How
much I couldn't ignore it, basically. Because I wanted it to consume me at that time in my life. And I still do sometimes. Don't get me wrong.
I heard music like that, too.
Road trip, if I'm alone, you better believe that I'm singing every moment of the road trip.
Yeah. I believe that.
But hopefully you guys are listening to That's Pretty Dark.
I'm Christian.
I'm Kaylin.
And we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, because guess what?
What?
We're back.
Oh, God.
I'm really
this is
sorry.
what we should have done.
I'm so sorry.
This is what we should have done when we came back from Halloween.
Yeah, I know, right?
After we took a week off, we should have been like, hey, we're back. A podcaster's story.
A podcaster's story.
We're dinosaurs these days, basically.
We are dinosaurs. Spot the difference. They're the same picture.
ADHD dinosaurs.
If you couldn't pick it up from this confusing conglomeration of words.
The swirl of verbiage.
Today, we're the swirl of verbiage. That describes our life entirely.
Swirl.
Our friendship especially. Oh my God.
Absolutely. Also another great lo-fi album.
Oh, I love it.
Title.
That's my favorite.
Swirl
That's way better
verbiage.
than Face Achy.
Swirl verbiage by Face Achy. Oh, God.
Okay,
Eventually
I'm into
we're
it,
gonna
though.
get on top.
I hate to admit it, but I'm into it.
I just want to say, I do not like this movie.
Wow.
I don't like it.
See, I did not expect you to like it.
No.
I expected you to like one certain portion, and that was it.
Yeah, no, I
fully
appreciate
expected that.
the carnival stuff is great.
Yeah, exactly.
But everything else is just like, what the hell am I watching?
We are going to discuss that and so much more.
Oh my
But yeah,
God.
guys, up front, up top, Christian's letting you know.
I don't like this movie.
This is not his recommendation.
I mean, I am glad that you like it or have liked it or hate it or I don't know what.
I don't know.
I'm glad we have it for podcast content, but I don't like the movie.
Fair.
I want to talk all about
That's
it.
exactly what I was going to say, is that it's one of my personal childhood staples. I don't know that that means that I like it. I don't think those two things are the same. The Venn diagram is not the same.
I get that.
This movie has an ultra special place in my heart personally because it is the first ever movie that I can remember choosing for myself at my local movie gallery, which is, that was the secondary company to Blockbuster. They could never oust Blockbuster, but they were actually founded in Alabama, by the way. Found that out this week.
Really? Very
kind of
interesting.
Founded in Dothan. So
cool.
But we had a movie gallery. And of course, I went to Blockbuster too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I know. We never went to movie gallery. I had friends who did, and I was like, why would you go to off-brand?
Off-brand Blockbuster.
Not good Blockbuster.
But I went there because, specifically I know this, because my parents like to shop at Kmart. So I would get Little Caesars Crazy Bread.
Yeah.
And I'd got to go to movie gallery when we would go to Kmart.
Wow.
I thought that I rented it like a dozen times. I thought I rented it over and over and over. I know it was more than once. But when I checked with my parents, it may have been 3 times.
But how would they remember?
I don't know. I asked them if they remembered, and they were like, was that the one with the dinosaur?
Would have been like 25 years ago.
But they said, my dad was like, there's no way I would have paid to rent a movie for you 12 times. Like, we would have purchased it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that makes sense, but I just have this memory. Anyway, I don't have a ton of like day-to-day memories of my childhood, but I remember walking back to my parents' minivan with this movie in my arms. Like I was holding it.
Wow.
So even if I'm in that area now, like the movie gallery, the Kmart, none of it's there.
You think of...
But I think of that whenever I'm in that area or that parking lot.
Aw.
Kind of sweet.
Well, that's sweet.
Yeah. So maybe, just maybe, I can help you to appreciate this film for what it's done for me, if nothing else.
If it's important to you, Kaylin, it's important to me.
Oh, what a good friend.
I guess that's what friendship's
What a good
all about.
co-host.
Am I?
So without further ado, would you all care to hear a summary?
Oh, yeah, I think I would.
Okay, I need you to answer because they can't answer.
I think they probably do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll speak for everybody.
We've tried the Dora the Explorer thing before. It doesn't work.
No, no.
So, in We're Back, 4 dinosaurs are kidnapped from the past by a scientist named Captain New Eyes and force-fed some magic cereal that makes them docile and gives them human knowledge. And then he drops them in the quote-unquote middle future in New York City in order to make children's wishes come true. In New York, they meet the runaway kid, Louie, and the very well-mannered Cecilia. Both of them are just wishing for friends and community and connection. And then they run into the one singular person that Captain New Eyes told them to avoid. His brother, Professor Screw Eyes, who wants to capture them for his eccentric circus. Will they make it to the Museum of Natural History to fulfill dreams, or will they become prisoner to the deep-seated fear that consumes Professor Screw Eyes?
Those are good questions.
We're going to tell you. Or you already know if you've seen the movie.
If not, don't watch it.
Just listen to this and you'll know everything you need to know.
Oh, God. I watched it twice.
I mean, I understand that you have your feelings about it, but you have to admit, it's got UFOs, it's got sugar cereal, it's got dinosaurs, and it's got unmitigated fear. These are all 90s staples.
It's got
so
many
regardless of how
things.
you feel about it, you can't argue that this movie was made for the children of the 90s.
It was made for them to market to them, to feed them in all the different ways.
Oh, yes.
Was there not a main big point to the cereal?
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Were they not going to try to create and sell and market brain grain?
I've never seen it. I'm not going to say that it didn't happen.
My takeaway was that was just a failed project.
Was this a General Mills commercial?
I mean, it could have been.
It was originally meant to be a TV, like straight to TV project. So, I
mean, I just know it's Spielberg. So his whole product placement thing, I could just see it being a thing where they go, we're going to make a cereal that is going to be, quote unquote, very healthy.
Right.
For kids.
Brain grain.
And we're going to market this to them. And it's going to be like Popeye's spinach.
Right.
People are going to eat it up because it's going to make kids smart and it gives them permission or an excuse to be decent.
If they didn't do that, they missed the boat, I think.
I kind of feel like they should have. Otherwise, what the hell? What's happening?
Well, we'll get there. We've got a lot to unpack, clearly.
I know.
We have a lot to unpack. I would say this film is sad, but it's not as sad as All Dogs.
No.
And it's dark.
Yeah.
But it's not even really as dark as Pagemaster.
No.
But something about it kept me coming back over and over and over. I don't know if it was just the whimsy of the time travel or the intriguing dialogue that was obviously very adult in some cases. It was probably, if I'm being honest with what my child self would have appreciated, the featured song.
Yeah.
But it could have also been the maybe sort of potentially profound discourse about facing your fears and being a friend.
That part I liked.
I'm probably overselling it. And I can say that it fell out of my regular rotation of movies that I watch. You know, I do rewatch things very frequently.
Yeah.
And this one, for whatever reason, just kind of dropped out of the ranking.
I can see why.
So when I watched it this week, it was like a time warp. It was like straight up, I'm a 5-year-old kid watching this movie. It was wild to me, just how much of it came back and how much of it I did know really well after,
Right.
you know, I had a couple things in my head about what this film was, but I was surprised all over again and confused all over again.
I found myself thinking, if I had seen this as a kid, this would be a delightful experience to watch it again.
Sure.
But, you know, having not,
You
I was
haven't
just
ever seen it.
from the get-go very confused.
Yeah, you guys are going to get a really unique perspective on this film because it's me who grew up watching it and Christian who knew nothing about it until this week.
No, like, yeah, you were like, you didn't know that Spielberg was involved? I was like, I knew exactly 0 things before I hit play. Like, I knew nothing about this movie. I had a completely different movie in my head about what was going to happen.
I'm interested to talk about what your expectations were too.
And then it started with birds, who I thought were going to be the main characters, and then I had no idea what was going on.
And then they didn't really explain why it started. That I still don't understand quite, but we'll get to it because I think there are some themes that tie in, and I'm probably trying too hard, but we'll see. We'll see.
All I know is it was based on a book.
It was.
So they probably just pulled a lot directly from the book, and that's what happened.
I'll explain.
Or maybe I'm wrong entirely.
You're not exactly correct. So,
well, wouldn't be the first time.
I'll set the scene for you. We're Back, which, like you said, was produced by Steven Spielberg, was released theatrically just a few months after Steven Spielberg released Jurassic Park. It was released on November 24th, 1993, during the Thanksgiving holiday, which means we will have just passed the 29th anniversary when you're hearing this, or at least when the episode's coming out.
Yeah.
And it was somehow rated G. It was marketed as the somewhat equal but more family-friendly Spielberg dinosaur film. And it had the tagline, "A dinosaur adventure for the whole family."
Gotcha.
So essentially, if you didn't want to take your kids to Jurassic Park, here's the movie for you.
Yeah, they want to watch a dinosaur movie because there is one.
Right.
Well, here it is.
That's a good effort, I guess. But in just all honesty, Steven, respectfully, how could you? How could you? How could you market it on par with Jurassic Park in any way?
I don't know.
Expectations were not managed with this film and the marketing of this film. They just were not.
No.
During the parade scene, you can even see a Jurassic Park poster. Or not poster, but a marquee.
Yeah, on the
saying
movie
Jurassic
theater.
Park.
Yeah.
Yes.
The cinema.
And there's also a cameo of Steven Spielberg. And critics really didn't like that because they felt like he was just using this as an opportunity to promote his other movie, which he totally was.
Of course he was, yeah.
There's no other way around it.
It'd be weird if they used Jurassic Park to market We're Back. That would have been awkward.
Oh, man. That would have been awkward. That wouldn't have worked out as well, I think,
Finally,
as this did for him. On the
film
whole.
for the whole family.
They also, I'll just mention this while we're talking about Spielberg, he shouts out his alma mater, like his high school, during the parade scene. The band is Arcadia High School, and that's where he went to high school.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, to be a filmmaker, it's kind of fun to insert parts of your life into your work, and that's why we're here. That's what we expect, but
I dig that.
Critics didn't like it.
And it makes sense because marching bands from all over the nation get to go play in the
Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That's true.
So that's pretty cool.
We're Back grossed $4.6 million during its opening weekend, playing alongside films like Miss Doubtfire.
Love Mrs. Doubtfire.
And I read that there were snowstorms that caused pretty much everything in this box office bracket, like this release, to struggle. But I'm afraid for our dinosaur friends, and I can admit this now that I'm a grown-up, it was probably more than just the weather that caused this movie to struggle in the box office.
Yeah, not shocking.
It grossed $9.3 million overall during its box office run on a $20 million budget and became, for journalists of the time, another example of how difficult it was to compete with Disney in the animation world.
Right.
Critics in the 90s were pretty harsh with this film, given Steven Spielberg's position,
Yeah.
And they praised the voice talent, and they thought it was cool that he brought together this cast. Most people said at the time it was more like a television cartoon than a feature because of all the ultra-fast pacing and minimal character development. I can't disagree with those points.
Yeah.
But I will continue. I maintain that there's still a certain dark, thrilling magic around everything from this time period, and this really fits into that niche.
Yeah. I still think it fits the time period. And I still think it does capture an element of that magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, if it were a spectrum, this would be on the lower end.
Sure.
You know?
I can get behind that.
And there probably are movies from that time that don't belong in the,
in the bracket at all. Yeah, it's true. There was a Slash Film article from 2017, and I liked what they said. They said, despite its poor character animation and bizarre writing, the incorporation of a horror circus and real dinosaurs dancing on city streets would fascinate children's minds.
Of course, yeah.
And fascinate this mind, it did.
Mm-hmm.
It was re-released on VHS in 1995, and I'm pretty sure that's the wave that I caught.
Yeah.
Was that release in 95. So I could have been as young as 4 years old.
Wow.
Renting it from Movie Gallery, which is crazy. That might be one of my earliest mememories, which is nuts.
Yeah, that's true. It did. I mean, it had all the makings of like all the visual elements that kids would really love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it may have said a family movie, but it was made for very small children.
Yeah, it feels that way.
You probably weren't following the dialogue and the storyline that much anyway. It was mostly just what it looked like and how
the
crazy
visuals,
and cool.
feeling.
And that's what I think captured the hearts and minds and the imagination of children everywhere.
I think it did. But speaking of earliest memories, let's roll back the rock to the dawn of the dinosaur story.
Lord.
And talk about the production story. I'm always thrilled whenever I go to do one of these movies and I can actually find details about production because they're not always abundant.
Right.
But I actually have the whole story, which I think is awesome.
Oh, cool.
We're Back got its start in 1987 during the dinosaur renaissance. I promise that's a thing. It began in the late 60s when new research was emerging to suggest that dinosaurs may have been warm-blooded like modern animals.
Right.
And it carries through popular culture well into the millennium. And I personally could talk about the dinosaur renaissance for days.
Yeah.
But I'll just emphasize that it was this, what brought this movie about. It was the same dinosaur renaissance that brought us classics like The Land Before Time and the show Dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were all about dinosaurs in the 80s and 90s as kids, and I'm really not sure that magic has worn off.
No, yeah.
I've even posted and shown you guys my long neck dinosaur figurine that I had for years. Like I was a dinosaur kid. I
thought they were super cool. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I didn't study them. I didn't know all the different kinds, but I did. I think everyone.
See, I knew dinosaurs and I knew dog breeds, and
yeah.
That's how I made friends. I'd be like, I'd give them my dog breed handbook and be like, quiz me, show me a dog. I was like, what dog?
Yeah, I had like dinosaur like toys and animals and stuff.
You weren't the same dinosaur kid that I was.
Not on your level. I've never been on your level to do with anything, I don't think. But
I'm sure you surpassed me in many ways.
Dinosaurs.
Maybe not in dinosaur fandom.
Not in dinosaur fandom. But I just remember how popular they were. Dinosaurs were everywhere. Books on them. I mean, everything. We had dinosaur quote unquote experts come to our school and talk about that. I mean, it was always in relation to the Bible and how humans lived alongside dinosaurs and how that factors into scripture. But
I wasn't going to bring this up. Oh my God.
We don't have to get into it. I just have. Maybe for like a post-credits conversation.
Okay. That, just bring me back there if you want to hear some crazy stuff.
So that we don't constantly just berate the
religious trauma kids get it.
No, they totally get it.
They get it. Don't you get it?
You're all shouting about it. But for those of you who are like, shut up about the Bible already.
Yeah, we'll stick with the story for now. The story of We're Back was first a children's book, like you said, by a man named Hudson Talbot. He has written over 27 children's books and still counting. He's still writing today, including a book called River of Dreams about the Hudson River, which actually inspired an entire musical, which I did not know.
Wow.
Before I started looking into this. But I think it's kind of interesting that his name is Hudson and he wrote about the Hudson River.
Maybe he was named.
I wonder if it's his namesake.
Maybe he was named after it and he's
just
been obsessed ever since.
I mean, I get it.
You obsessed with the Kalen
River
reservoir.
I got my name from a beauty pageant queen that was in the paper a couple weeks before I was born, and my parents liked it.
That's great. I got my name because I was supposed to be a good Christian boy. I was. That's
different. That hits different.
I was.
You were.
I was.
Again, we can leave it there.
I was almost named Jeremy. No offense to Jeremy's, but I'm glad I wasn't.
So this guy, Hudson Talbot, that wrote the book, met with Spielberg and other producers throughout the development of the film, but like many authors, he really didn't get much of a say in the final screenplay. That's not uncommon in this sort of situation. From what I could gather, I did not read the book, could not find the book in time, but from what I could gather, the book was very short, only 20 pages long, and even less substantial than the eventual film.
Sure.
But Amblimation, which is Amblin Entertainment's subsidiary, still had to fight to get the rights to this. It was a hot commodity in the late 80s.
This book, huh?
Yeah, this story first caught the interest of Hanna-Barbera just a couple months after it was published, and they approached him about producing it. Universal Pictures ended up paying off Hanna-Barbera to get the rights to it so that Amblimation could take it on. Even Disney executives showed interest in adapting this book to add to their slate after they completed The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
But in this case, which very rarely happened, but Universal beat them to the punch.
That's wild.
John Musker, who directed Disney hits including The Great Mouse Detective, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, Princess and the Frog, and Moana, said that he thought a Disney version of this story could be like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but a 7-year-old Snow White with dinosaurs instead of dwarves. That's
cool, yeah.
He was excited for it.
Yeah.
And as much as I love the version that was made, I can't help but wonder what would have come of this story. And dreaming up the circus scenes especially, if the same mind who directed Ratigan and Poor Unfortunate Souls and Hades and pretty much all of Treasure Planet.
Absolutely.
And even Friends on the Other Side had gotten a hold of this story.
Dude, for real though.
Damn.
That could have taken it to a whole new level. That energy, agree. That Disney energy. Oh my God.
I fully agree. Could not agree more.
Very cool.
The storyboarding of We're Back began in 1990. And it was pretty difficult because they were trying to squeeze a feature film out of 20 pages of actual content.
Yeah, I was surprised to see it was only like an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's still a short movie.
Super short.
The first screenplay draft was written by a guy named Flint Dill, who had worked on the animated Transformers, G.I. Joe, and An American Tail, Fievel Goes West. But ultimately, Steven Spielberg was not a fan of his draft.
Yeah.
So Steven hired a guy named John Patrick Shanley, who had written Moonstruck in 1987 and worked with Steven on Joe versus the Volcano with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
Nice.
Which it kind of made me laugh because it's like, I guess I knew of Joe versus the Volcano, but I started to look into this. I was like, how many freaking movies did Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan make? I love them all, but like, I feel like I discover a new one every other month.
The more the merrier,
like,
honestly.
Oh my God. And honestly, I've probably seen it. I just don't remember.
Yeah.
But I agree, more the merrier. You guys can do more if you want to. So Shanley, his draft was a lot darker than the original draft and was ultimately the script that they worked from. Steven liked it a lot better. And honestly, I'm glad because the darkness is what I like about this movie.
It's the only reason to watch the movie.
Instead of Disney's John Musker, who I think really just could have knocked it out of the park. Not that these guys did a bad job. I'm going to kind of explain to you why I think it landed where it did. Because if you notice in the credits before the movie, We're Back had 4 directors.
Yeah, I saw that.
These directors were Phil Nibelink, Simon Wells, and Dick and Ralph Zondag.
That guy's name is Phil in the Blank?
Phil Nibelink.
Phil in the Blank?
N-I-B-B-E-L.
It sounds like a card. What's that game where like it's all spelled funny and you have to read it?
Oh, it does. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called. It's like nonsense or something. And you have to like sound out whatever's on the... Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Totally.
People are like, you idiots. What's it called?
Dummies.
I'm a love machine.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a love machine.
It's a pretty fun game.
Stupid commercial.
It's a fun game if you have to like wait in line somewhere. It's fun to play stuff like that.
It is.
Steven Spielberg wanted the darkness that came from the script, but Phil Nibelink didn't really like it. But I'm glad that Steven won out on this one.
I can't unhear it.
And I'll give a quick rundown of each of these guys because I think it's all really relevant. But I also think the fact that they had 4 directors trying to direct this movie is also really relevant to the final product.
Sounds like there's too many directors in the studio.
Kitchen? Yeah.
The editing kitchen.
So Phil Nibelink got his start in 1971 as a character animator on The Fox and the Hound.
Oh my God.
He was also an animator for Mickey's Christmas Carol, The Great Mouse Detective, and Casper before, I assume, meeting Steven while he animated for Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Nice.
He then worked under Steven for 10 years, and he co-directed Five Goes West with Simon Wells.
Gotcha.
This guy is apparently a powerhouse. He worked on The Iron Giant and Cats Don't Dance.
Ooh, Iron Giant's good.
He turned out Puss in Boots, the 1999 animated version, not the Shrek one that you're thinking of.
Oh, I see.
And Romeo and Juliet, Sealed with a Kiss, almost single-handedly. So he made animated movies like nobody's business. He was a multi-talented kind of guy.
Sounds cool.
Simon Wells, of course, worked on Five Goes West, like I said, but he got his start storyboarding for All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Wow.
He also storyboarded for Beauty and the Beast, Road to El Dorado, Shrek, and Spirit.
Jeez.
He also, and I'm going to blow your mind with this one, Simon Wells also directed Balto.
Huh.
And he directed The Prince of Egypt.
Oh my God, yes.
My mouth dropped open when I read that because I was like, there's no way. But yeah, Simon Wells.
Cannot wait to cover Prince of Egypt.
Me either. Man, me either. Simon Wells also went on to animate a lot more with DreamWorks, including Over the Hedge, Kung Fu Panda, and many more. The Zondag brothers, Ralph and Dick, worked together for most of their career, and they have credits between them, including the Care Bears movie, Ewoks. They were directing animators on The Land Before Time, specifically the characters Petrie and Sharptooth.
Oh, I see.
Which I totally get it.
Yeah.
They also animated on All Dogs, Space Jam, Quest for Camelot,
Oh my God.
Iron Giant, Osmosis Jones, Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, Bolt, and more.
Robinsons.
Some of those were them individually, but for the most part, they worked together.
Damn. All right.
And Ralph actually co-wrote Disney's Pocahontas, which, and
whoops.
I loved the movie, but
I mean, it's a beautiful
and
film.
also co-directed the movie Dinosaur for Disney.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
So of these four guys, a lot of them already have connections to dinosaur-related projects. So it seems like it just made sense that they team up to work on this movie.
Right.
According to Wikipedia, Nibelink was the most hands-on with We're Back of the four directors because Simon Wells had to step away after he was assigned to direct Balto.
Got to.
And it seems like this was a common practice at Amblimation where directors would rotate between projects that they had on deck because at this point when We're Back was in production, they were still finishing An American Tail, Five Goes West, while developing We're Back and Balto and a failed project adapting the musical Cats at the same time.
Oh, nice.
It feels like Cats is cursed. I'm just going to say it.
It pretty much is, yes.
It feels as though it is a cursed piece of media.
Yes.
But I really can't help but think that this rotating director style might be at least partly to blame for the quick, chaotic, disjointed feel that you get from this movie.
They weren't all there at the same time, or were they? Because I'm like, why four directors?
Simon Wells was mostly only involved with the script, it seems like, and he basically bowed out after that. So you don't really feel Prince of Egypt too much in this movie.
No, definitely not.
But I don't think he had a choice in it. I think Steven Spielberg assigned these guys to it and then said, actually, Simon, you go work on Balto.
Interesting.
And it seems like that's how it worked in their studio because they were all in his studio.
Got it.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that energy though.
It was something.
Kicking things around like,
else.
All right, let's figure this out. You guys do this and then, we'll move you around if we have to.
Yeah, it's more like a writer's room of directing, which depends on the project. It's tough to run a ship with four people.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, too many
directors in that kitchen.
But hearing this, it really solidified for me once again how intertwined all of the films of my childhood were. And how many of them I did manage to see as a child. And I'm also struck again by how much less media we had as kids than kids have today.
Yeah.
Being born while the 3 to 4 studio monopoly was still really strong in all areas of film and TV and entertainment, I feel like it was easier for even like the lower echelons of society to see most of the latest films.
Right.
At the time, we all only had so many options, the same few options. And this, I think, also strengthened our millennial zeitgeist further.
Right.
And I think that's part of the reason our generation feels so bonded together.
Yeah.
It's not just the trauma. It's also just there was a much more shared cultural experience in media.
It was possible to see everything.
Yeah.
Today, it's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
You have to just kind of pick what you want to consume. But then there were only so many movies made per year.
Right.
And if it came out, pretty much everyone saw it.
Exactly.
Generally.
There were so few successful studios at the time. And today, like you said, it's almost impossible. There's streaming services. There are more studios than just the 3 to 4. And plus there's the content creation. Every man can create content now.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, they have the backlog of everything before this, which we started out with, we were born into much less of a backlog of children's entertainment than now.
Because before then, there was even less made before we grew up.
Right.
So it's increasingly, steadily been more and more things every year. Now it's every week, every day.
So now you can kind of niche down into things that you like, even as a kid. Whereas when we were kids, that wasn't as much of an option.
Mm-hmm.
It was becoming an option, but it wasn't really there yet. So we have the same experiences because we all saw the same things.
Right.
And I think that's cool. We're the last generation to have that.
It is cool.
We talk about that a lot. We're the last generation for a lot of things. We're the last generation to have memories pre-internet. It's just, it's wild.
Yep.
I think it's such an interesting point to remember, especially for That's Pretty Dark as a show, is we're bonded by this because there was so much less for us to find.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's cool. It's fascinating to me. That's an aside. That's your sociology lesson for today. We might come back to some sociology. We'll see.
Guys, we were forced to watch bad movies like We're Back. Which somehow I missed.
It made us better people.
I know for sure I didn't see this one.
Yeah, that's crazy. For it to be the one that you haven't seen.
It rang no bells.
Yeah.
I heard no bells.
It wouldn't win the Nobel.
Oh my God.
Sure wouldn't.
Sure wouldn't.
Anyway. And speaking of this very thing, this shared experience, I want to go ahead and credit James Horner for the score.
I did like the score.
We talked about him at length in our Page Master episode.
Right.
He obviously has done so much. Rest in peace, James Horner. To hit the highlights, refresh your memory. If you didn't hear the Page Master episode or you don't remember, he did Titanic, Captain EO, An American Tail, Land Before Time, including the song If We Hold On Together. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Five Will Goes West, Once Upon a Forest, Casper, Jumanji, etc., etc., etc.
Etc.
If you want to hear me gush more about James Horner, just go back to the Page Master episode. It is there for you.
Or go back anyway, because that was a fun time.
So this is what I told you about earlier. I don't know if we were recording yet.
I don't know.
Wikipedia noted that as they neared the end of production, a scramble for nearly $1 million worth of alterations took place after they had a really rough test screening. And this point is when they added the very well-remembered Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade scene and the song Roll Back the Rock, written by James Horner and Thomas Dolby, who had a career as well. It's intense, but he was a recording engineer for Fern Gully.
Okay, well.
Also, Little Richard sings a version of the song in the credits.
In the credits,
which is great.
Listen.
Oh, yeah.
I figured out a way you guys can stroll uptown and not cause a riot. Come on.
Despite the fact that it was never actually explained how these dinosaurs were able to sneak into the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade with no protest from anyone.
Yeah, and they're on a float.
Many critics felt like this parade scene was the best in the film.
What?
And can you imagine if they hadn't had that test screening go bad and they hadn't added it?
Yeah.
Personally, I can't.
I don't know. I have issues with this scene.
More than just the fact that they appeared in the parade
it
miraculously.
Logically doesn't make any sense, but I've expressed this to you before. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast yet.
You know, like music doesn't make sense.
No, not that. Not that.
You've expressed that.
No, it makes sense. The music makes sense in this scene.
Because they're in a parade.
I am made so deeply uncomfortable by children dancing in any capacity.
What do you mean?
It makes me so uncomfortable.
Why is that?
I don't know. I've told you before.
First of all, they're animated.
It still holds.
Okay.
Even within animation.
You're not a Kids Bop fan.
Absolutely not, no. That may be why I hate it so much, because I hated those Kids Bop commercials.
You've never seen Dance Moms?
No, never. What is that? I don't want to know.
I don't think we've come upon anything yet that you've struggled with the way that I struggle with things.
I don't know. This is it.
Damn.
Any of those like Gap commercials that come on around the holidays where all the kids are dancing around in their cool new clothes, can't stand it. I hate it. I have to look away.
Do you think that this ties in, to get into the Christian psychology of it all?
Oh, no.
Do you think that this ties into like what you've told me before, how you weren't really allowed to like be silly and express yourself?
It's not that. I don't think it's that at all. Just saying. And there are so many children dancing in the scene. They're all animated. They're all choreographed the exact same.
They are.
And I hate it.
Roll back the rock till the dawn of time.
Oh, God. It's like so uncomfortable.
I'm surprised. I figured there were many more things that made you uncomfortable about this movie. That being the least of them.
No, there are lots of other things too.
Oh, okay. We'll get to more of them.
But that was the most.
You'll have to let us know.
That was the
feel.
one thing I couldn't stand to look at twice.
Wow.
Don't make it weird. I'm just talking about it.
I didn't expect that. I just thought there were a lot of other triggers.
Yeah, no, there are other cringy things for sure.
But like I said, the critics loved it. This was the best that the film got in a lot of people's opinion.
Never trusted critics.
Never trust the critics. Very rarely, anyway. I also squeezed into my notes here that We're Back was the first animated film not produced by Disney to fully use digital ink and paint technology to complete the animation. So they were pioneering something. Most of the animated films we've discussed so far really were.
Yeah.
But still, they're not Disney.
I did appreciate the animation.
Another fun note about the directing, as they were storyboarding, Phil Nobalink would voice the characters, to add to the animatics.
Yeah.
And he imitated people like Walter Cronkite and Julia Child, which is what prompted Steven Spielberg to cast them.
That's funny.
And I think that's kind of fun.
That's
Because he
great.
just kind of projected their voice onto those characters. And then Steven was like, I like that. Let's do that.
Right, yeah.
Apparently, though, the actors and Nobalink struggled with some of the dialogue from the original script and found it unnatural, so they changed a few lines while they were recording.
Yeah.
But because this was not approved by Shanley, they ended up having to ADR his original dialogue for the film.
I see.
Yikes. That doesn't sound fun to me.
No.
And I feel like most writers are pretty cool about that stuff, but they didn't get it approved, so got axed.
That's wild.
Speaking of the cast, I think this is a pretty good time to transition into the cast. I'm going to try to keep this brief for you guys. This is a monstrously long cast list.
Yeah, there were a lot of people.
So many cast members. There are a lot of people in this movie. But we'll start at the beginning with the deep, comforting dino voice that we hear humming at the beginning of the movie. And that is, of course, John Goodman. His career goes back to the TV movies of the 80s before he landed his iconic gig as Dan Connor in Roseanne in 1988. I can't believe it was that long ago. I don't know why, but Roseanne started in 1988.
That's shocking to me.
And it ran through 1997, and it was rebooted briefly, as we know, in 2018.
Yeah.
During this time, he was also a regular face on Saturday Night Live. He played Fred Flintstone in the 1994 Flintstones, which I had totally blocked from my memory until I saw it, and I was like,
really?
Oh,
No, I think
yeah,
about
I remember that.
Too often.
Too much? Yeah. It's
Too
one of
much,
those
yes.
that gets to you for sure.
I think about it all the time.
Whenever I would take my Flintstones vitamin,
Yeah.
obviously I watched the cartoon, but whenever I would take my Flintstones vitamin, that was the version that I would think of.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I also took the Flintstones vitamin.
Oh, man. They cure what ails you.
Can I just get those in bulk, please? Can I just have
Can you fix me
a
with
lifetime
the
supply
Flintstones
of...
vitamin? I mean, all I know is that I felt a hell of a lot better when I was taking those than I do now.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Forget the fact that it was 25 years ago.
Yeah, forget the fact that you were a kid and...
I've aged.
Yeah.
He also had long-running gigs on other shows and appeared in everything from The Borrowers, which I forgot about that too,
Borrowers, yeah.
to The Big Lebowski, and as Pacha in The Emperor's New Groove, and The Emperor's New School, which was a Disney Channel spinoff.
Yeah.
But my favorite John Goodman credit is as Sully in Monsters, Inc., which
The best.
was in 2001.
Incredible.
And he's been Sully in every reprise since then.
Good.
I love Monsters, Inc.
It's so good.
I love it. I worked at Monsters, Inc. laugh floor in Disney World.
Yeah,
so
you
it had
did. Yeah,
when
you
I
did.
hear the music, any of the score from Monsters, Inc., I'm like, I'm in Disney World.
Yeah.
Because I just heard it on the loop for hours and hours
Right.
and hours. And I hated my life then, but man, I'd go back to it now.
Hmm.
His voice has always comforted me, and I think that's due to voicing characters like Rex and Sully and Pacha.
Right.
He apparently recorded his lines as Rex very shortly after having his wisdom teeth removed. And he had to ice his face between takes.
What? They couldn't give him
That's
a
so
week?
sad to me. I know,
Good
but
Lord.
production schedules. You know how a production schedule
There were
is.
times when I thought his voice didn't sound like him. So maybe it's
And that
because he
probably
was...
is why. He was not feeling well.
That's horrible. He felt very muted.
Subdued.
So yeah, subdued's the word.
Which I can totally see that being why.
Mm-hmm.
IMDb claims that he's had more animated roles than any, quoting, celebrity actor
Yeah.
ever. And I'm really not sure about that because I'm not sure how you quantify that or qualify that. I know there are plenty of actors that have,
I think you just
gone into
count
voice
the
acting
number
careers.
of voice acting roles that are like animation
But
roles that actors
more
have
than
had.
any celebrity actor, it says. So it's like
Oh, yeah.
there are other actors that may have had more
That's true.
that have had, on-screen roles too. I don't know.
Maybe IMDb's going by the IMDb rating score system that they have. That doesn't really mean anything. Their star meter, have you seen that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. By the number of credits that they have and stuff.
Yeah, or something like that. I don't know, but they're all ranked.
Yeah. Buster, the overly ambitious birdling, is voiced by Blaise Bardal,
Yeah.
who had a super relevant list of credits. I almost didn't include the birds, and I was like, no, I'm going to look it up. And I'm really glad that I did, because Blaise Bardal, do you know her name?
No, I looked up to see who voiced the birds, but
She was Ellie Creel in the 1989 Pet Sematary.
oh, wow.
She played
Crazy.
a character named Terry in the first Are You Afraid of the Dark video game.
Oh, nice. That's sick.
And she starred as Lenny on Ghost Rider.
No way.
So she had a lot of pretty dark
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah. I need to go back and just watch Ghost Rider.
I know, me too. We will. I think we should cover it eventually. We've said we will. Buster's mother was voiced by Rhea Perlman, who is best known as Carla from Cheers and Miss Wormwood from Matilda.
No freaking way.
That was the mommy bird.
We're going to do Matilda.
Oh, absolutely.
Such a dark
Matilda's
movie.
pretty dark.
Love that. Wow.
The kids in this story are voiced by Joey Shea and Yeardley Smith as Louie and Cecilia, respectively.
Cecilia Nuthatch.
Cecilia Nuthatch. Joey was another Ghost Rider alum
Oh, nice.
as Calvin, and he also made regular appearances in One Life to Live and As the World Turns.
Okay.
He was 16 when he provided his voice for Louie, maybe 15. He was 16 when the movie came out, in any case.
Right.
And I'm going to also say, listener, that the design of the character Louie has always reminded me so much of TJ from Recess.
Oh, God.
Like, so much.
Yeah.
If you just flip the cap backward, it's like identical. I've always, it's a jacket. That's all it is. It's a jacket.
Yeah.
But that, I've always conflated
He has a
TJ
quintessential
and Louie.
90s white kid look.
To the point where when Louie came on screen when I was watching it this week, my brain went, there's TJ, which that's not his name.
Yeah.
His name's Louie.
That's funny.
Yeardley, of course, has been voicing Lisa Simpson since 1989.
I didn't know that.
That's the voice of Lisa Simpson.
Wow.
And not to be weird about it, because they were voice actors after all,
Mhm.
but she was 29 when she voiced Cecilia, and he was, 15.
That's not weird at all.
Yeah.
What's weird is how sexual they made Cecilia.
Hey, we'll get there. We will get
It's the
there.
animation
I promise.
and the choices
We'll
that
get
the
there.
script.
We're
It's
gonna
the
get
script.
there. I swear we will.
I don't care how old
Hang
the
in
voice
there.
actors are, as long as the voice actors aren't, bumping uglies in the back room.
Sure. No, yeah, it was weird, and we are going to talk about why
It was weird.
very soon.
Would still rather watch that than kids dancing.
Really?
Absolutely.
To be clear, that meaning the Louie and Cecilia romance.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I don't want to look
Just
at
checking.
anything illegal necessarily, but I would, my God, I would almost rather watch anything than look at a
Anything.
10-year-old hip hop dancing.
Captain New Eyes is voiced by none other than Walter Cronkite,
Yeah, I was surprised to see that.
who, of course, is the voice many boomers and Gen Xers know for his news broadcasting. He served as a news reporter during World War II.
And
There you
that's
go.
the way it was.
That's the way it is.
And that's the way, I like it. It's Bruce Almighty.
Yeah,
It's Jim Carrey.
Here you go.
I like it. Uh-huh.
Knew you were going to finish the line. I was watching you.
I
You already have a mustache and a beard.
already
but
did it.
He was
I-
giving
yeah.
himself a mustache, listener, with his hand, his finger, but he literally has facial hair.
I'm doing the Bruce Almighty thing.
Walter.
And that's why at the end of the movie, he says,
And that's the way it is.
That's exactly why. You've jumped ahead.
I just put it together.
Okay. He served as a news reporter during World War II and became a journalist officially in 1950. And he started a career with CBS News in 1962.
Huh.
And then he retired from journalism in 1981.
Wow.
So there were two solid decades where people just associated him and his voice and his,
Yeah.
presence with news broadcasting.
Yeah, no, he was a big deal. He was that comforting voice you could trust.
Mhm.
Like we talked about with the Disney
Oh yeah, the Disney
commercial,
Coming
the
Soon
trailer guy,
on
Coming
Disney
Soon
Home
guy.
Video. Yes.
Yeah.
And this was actually his first voice acting role, although he did provide his voice for some of the early Spaceship Earth narration in Epcot
Oh,
in the early 80s.
That's wicked cool.
Yeah.
Man, see, that's okay. I was thinking, how could Walter Cronkite stoop so low as to voice this character in a really terrible
Well, we learned that it
animated
was
movie?
because Phil Nibelink imitated him.
Fill in the blank.
Phil Nibelink imitated him.
Yeah, no, I know.
So
It was a good get.
when Professor New Eyes closes the museum door at the end of the movie, he says, "And that's the way it is," which is a reference to Walter Cronkite's
That's the way
famous
it
closing
is.
line on the CBS Evening News.
Yeah.
To me, the New Eyes character just made me think a lot of that one guy from Adventures in Odyssey.
Adventures in Odyssey is an animated movie. What is that?
Adventures in Odyssey was a radio drama. You probably know it because they put their tapes, they put audio cassettes in Chick-fil-A
Hold on.
kids' meals. Yeah. That guy.
Yeah, he does look like him.
The Screw Eyes casting story is a bit more interesting, though.
I am curious.
Originally, John Malkovich recorded the voice of Screw Eyes.
No way.
But according to Nibelink, Spielberg said that his performance was too scary. But to me, I want to see that
I
version.
mean, I wanna-
If that's true, I want to see
I
it.
want to see that version. Absolutely.
I'm also having trouble picturing it because I primarily see the John Malkovich from Space Force.
Oh my God. No
Currently,
way.
because that's just the most recent thing that I saw with John Malkovich.
I can't imagine the brothers, the voices. Maybe he did an older sounding voice. But
Well, okay, so that was a story that the director told. In reality, it seems that it may have been more about creative differences.
yeah.
John Malkovich has been pretty anti-We're Back in some of his interviews over the years, claiming that he walked away because the production was bureaucratized. And he said, while there was something artistic to it, in quotes, the final product is an example of what happens when you put projects like this in the laps of people who care more about the bottom line.
Oh, I see.
So I think he's either mad at Spielberg or something.
Somebody.
But he is, not a fan of the production as a whole. But he read for it, or recorded it actually completely, and was cut. And then Christopher Lloyd recorded for the character.
Wow.
We don't know if it was scheduling that got in the way of that, or if Spielberg didn't like him for the character. I don't think I would have liked him for the character because he would have been a great New Eyes to me.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's
agree.
a Screw Eyes.
I can see that.
You're either a New Eyes or you live long enough to see yourself become the Screw Eyes. And I think he's more of a New Eyes.
He definitely has a very just specific sound.
Yeah. And ultimately, for the role, they went with Kenneth Mars.
Yeah.
Kenneth Mars also voiced Triton in The Little Mermaid.
Really?
Yes.
That's a good choice. All right.
Kenneth Mars is probably best known for his appearances in Young Frankenstein and The Producers.
Oh.
But he's done everything from Scooby-Doo to The Smurfs to DuckTales, Tailspin, The Pink Panther, Malcolm in the Middle, Hannah Montana.
Oh my God.
And he voiced Grandpa Longneck in many of the Land Before Time chronicles.
Incredible.
He has so many credits. So it's interesting. I mean, it was clearly difficult for them to land on their Professor Screw Eyes. So Spielberg thought he was the winner.
He worked for me.
For the sake of time, I'm going to condense the rest of the cast a lot. So I apologize in advance because this is just going to be a skim across what we're working with.
I think people are hitting the 15 seconds ahead. They keep checking in.
So Dweeb was voiced by Charles Fleischer, who was the voice of Roger Rabbit and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
No way, I did not know
featured in
that.
Zodiac, The Polar Express, Buzz Lightyear, Star Command, 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd, which I loved that show and nobody talks about that show. It was a Nickelodeon show.
I don't think I know that one.
Loved it. Woog was played by Renee Levant.
You want a hot dog? Or do you want a hot dog?
One of the relevant credits of Renee's that I could find was that he gave additional voices on The Flintstone Kids.
Oh, I see.
Elsa, the pterodactyl, was voiced by Felicity Kendall, who was a British actress who featured on Doctor Who in 2008.
Enchanted and delighted to make your acquaintance, Rex. Oh, pardon my wingspan, won't you please?
Super sexual pterodactyl.
I know. We'll get there
Like
too.
a pterosexual, if you know what I mean. More like it.
Okay, we save it. Save that energy. I need it to come back soon.
All right.
Stubbs the Clown is voiced by Martin Short.
Yeah, I was so pumped to see that.
Who provides somewhat out of place but well-intended comic relief.
Yeah, no, it was forced.
Stubbs the Clown, formerly of the legitimate circus. How you do?
This was Martin Short's first theatrical voice role, but he went on to do The Pebble and the Penguin, Prince of Egypt, Treasure Planet as well.
He was in Prince of Egypt? Wow.
He was Hui in Prince of Egypt. Also, Dr. Bleeb is voiced by Julia Child, like I said before, because Phil Niblink had done her voice.
That's so funny.
They just went with Julia Child.
You can't skimp on publicity.
Larry King makes a cameo as himself.
Sure does.
The Larry King Show, we're back. We have a lady with us who says she has seen a real dinosaur.
Which is
Okay, to
funny
Midtown,
because
man.
that hadn't really happened before at the time either.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, we have Jay Leno voicing Vorb, who is the obnoxious, in my opinion, alien assistant to Captain New Eyes.
The process of random selection, your galaxy, your planet, your neighborhood. Hold on to your tail now, kiddo.
Jay Leno's stand-up comedy led him to the Tonight Show gig in 1992, which was just prior to this role.
Yeah.
And fun fact, he also voiced the Crimson Chin on The Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah, he did. I knew that. A better performance, if you ask me.
Yeah. And apparently this week he ended up in the hospital.
I was going to say, yeah, he got burned pretty severely.
So good thoughts to Jay Leno. It's crazy. I was writing about him when I saw this.
One of his hundreds of cars turned on him and it
Yeah.
said, freak you, Jay Leno.
It sure did. Hate to hear it.
I grew up watching Jay Leno with my parents, basically. And so I spent a lot of time fake laughing at Jay Leno.
At Jay Leno.
Yeah,
That's
like,
funny.
haha, you know how kids laugh at
Did
stuff?
you fake laugh at him when you saw him and We're Back?
Absolutely not.
You just, yeah.
I was
okay, didn't
upset.
think so.
I was mad.
Speaking of being mad, I will try to walk you through some of the darkness of this story and the culture that shaped the film.
Madness as in...
Plus my nostalgic feelings, plus Christian's hatred of the movie. And keep in mind, he literally hadn't seen it until this week, which is wild to me. So you're getting a perspective of somebody that's known it practically since it came out, and somebody who's never seen it before at all.
This is true.
And I'm going to do my very best just to provide commentary and not go moment by moment so that you can enjoy the film on your own. But write in, because I really don't know which way you guys prefer it. If you like me to go moment by moment when I do movie nights, I've done several of them now. So let me know what you think and how you feel. And if you haven't seen this film before, or it's been a while, you should definitely go check it out. Christian's going to say not to. I think
no, I mean,
it would benefit you to watch it. And it's actually on YouTube.
It'll entertain your kids. If you have kids.
Yeah, put it on for your kids. Totally.
100%.
First, I thought that we could dive into some of the sci-fi magic of We're Back.
Right. Time travel, spaceships,
time travel,
dinosaurs,
spaceships. I feel like We're Back fits squarely into the sci-fi frenzy that was taking the world by storm in the late 70s and 80s with the advent of Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting to me because I think folks who grew up on that Star Wars energy were coming of age and getting into the business for themselves at this point. And so it made a lot of sense to do a sci-fi kids movie.
Right, yeah.
Though also not the first franchise to capitalize on the dinosaur renaissance, it feels like they were a little bit ahead of their time with the sci-fi boom as a whole.
Yeah.
We see an uncanny resemblance between Captain New Eye's 18th century steampunk-looking flying ship and those in films such as Disney's Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and Treasure Planet.
Right. Those two.
All very similar.
Which are far superior.
Well, 2001 and 2002. So
that's true.
They came 10 years later.
This kind of paved the way.
Right.
In some ways.
And I don't know if it was just the play on a ship.
Yeah.
Like a flying ship looking like an 18th century, ocean ship.
Right.
Transatlantic ship. I have no idea. But
don't know.
I did think it was interesting that all three of these movies had very similar aesthetic.
They did.
When you think about it.
Those could have just based it off of this one.
Yeah.
You never know.
Absolutely.
Never know.
I've also got to say, similar to the way that they brought in their sci-fi origins in this movie, being raised on a film like this, as well as stuff like Back to the Future, made me feel like time travel was so plausible.
Right.
So plausible from my childhood. And I think most of our generation felt this way, but I never once batted an eye at any of the pseudoscience. Made inherent sense to me, understood it. Time travel as a concept, got it. Makes sense.
It was always there. So many things were time travel. Like it's just one of those things that fit into our zeitgeist that just we're like, checks out. Sure. Yeah, time travel, no problem.
Which I think is so funny because I don't know that generations before us would have been so quick to like latch on to that,
Probably
but
not.
It made total sense to me.
We also don't bat an eye at talking animals.
Oh, no, not at all.
You know?
Never.
We're like, yeah.
Even though
sure.
the bird bat an eye at the talking dinosaur, the talking bird.
Hey, ain't you a dinosaur? Yeah.
Come on, Buster.
Come on, Buster.
But in this time travel discussion, I also have to point out that Captain New Eyes tells the dinosaurs that he comes from a time in the far future.
Right.
He calls it.
Right.
He says a time in the far future where everyone gets along. And I really hope that 2022 is not the far future that he came from. And I highly doubt it is, being 29 years removed from what he calls the middle future, which is 1993, presumably.
Presumably.
But yikes, we have a long way to go to get to the
yeah.
far future where everyone gets along.
I think, far future.
But I hope we get there. That'd be cool.
Hundreds of years, if not thousands.
If not millennia.
If not, never ever going to happen.
If the Earth lasts that long, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We may have already entered a timeline that New Eyes was not familiar with.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
We may already be on a different course. But anyway, I like the way that they depict time travel in this movie because they kind of spin the Earth till they reach their desired space-time. And then it's like, ding, okay, it's ready now.
Right, yeah.
Like, here we are in the middle future.
Yeah.
It rocked my world as a kid, no pun intended. And I just appreciated it looking back at it.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
But while we're on the subject of technology, we have to talk about something else that I was absolutely captivated by, and that was the Wish radio.
I'm going to say the radio. Yeah, the Wish radio.
It's a Wish radio.
The Wish radio, if you're unfamiliar, is a device that Captain New Eyes uses to tune in to the wishes of all of the children in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there are several stereotypical shifts in clothing of the kids, although they all speak English. Weird. As Captain New Eyes is giving the dinosaurs their marching orders and showing them these bubbles with images of children making their wishes.
Yeah.
most of these kids, or a lot of them, just so happen to wish to see a dinosaur in real life. Convenient, right?
Pretty convenient.
Here on Wish Radio 93, we're doing all dinos all the time.
I don't know that my biggest wish at that age would have been to see a dinosaur, but
I don't think it was mine either, but I mean, I can see kids wishing for that, I guess. They're learning about them.
I can see a couple. But he was like, this is the biggest wish I've ever heard. It's like to see dinosaurs.
But also the wish to have friends. You know, there were several.
That was important. There were other ones that they had to weave into the
plot. They kind of
plot.
combined the ideas because eventually the dinosaurs would fulfill both wishes by becoming friends with some of these kids.
I want a Thanksgiving hat. Like, why?
I want a Thanksgiving hat. Well, that was the very last thing that was wished as they closed out the scene.
Yeah.
And it was so funny to me because it was clearly just thrown in there because, long story short, but Cecilia throws her hat when she decides to join Louis, and it wafts down to the street level and onto the head of a little girl that's looking in the window at the same hat. But
it wasn't even like a plot payoff, like nothing. It was just
a moment.
It was just to show almost immediately that these wishes are coming true.
It was to show that Captain New Eyes is in the business of making kids' wishes come true.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because that's not what billionaires are in the business of today. He seems rather wealthy.
Hey, you know what? Mr. Amazon Pants said he was going to give away his wealth in his lifetime. Did you see that recently?
No, but I don't believe it.
He and his girlfriend sat there on camera and they both said, he said, I'm going to give away.
Bezos?
Yeah. He was like, I'm going to give away my wealth.
Bezos.
And I wonder if that isn't just what he calls paying his employees.
Well, he doesn't really do that either.
Yeah, I know, right? He barely even does that. I'm going to give away my wealth. I'm going to pay everybody who works for me.
The top 3 billionaires have more wealth than the bottom half of society now. Yeah. It's like official or something. I think I read that this week. So do with that information what you will, listener. But Captain New Eyes seems to be a benevolent.
He just wants to give back.
Rich man. But notice, listener, that is fictional.
Ooh. It's a dream, though. It's a dream. It's a wish.
I'm also pretty sure that at 4 years old, Kaylin, thought that this was how the Christian God saw me saying my prayers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he is like God.
I imagined that my prayers and wishes floated up to God just like this Wish Radio. So this also bought in immediately.
This does
Checks
work.
Out, makes total sense to me.
You're right. It's very allegorical.
What a worldview to have at 4 years old. But that is what I believed, is that my little heart was wishing stuff and it was floating up in bubbles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
And, most of those wishes weren't granted. So had to contend with that as I got older.
He came off very Santa Claus to me, too.
Sure. Yeah. This is like a futuristic Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Flying around in his ship without reindeer, making dreams come true.
I could see you sitting in your little fairy ring, making wishes, saying prayers, and just hoping they all come true.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me. That's who I am as a person. I also love that this Wish Radio is pretty retro looking, all things considered.
Truly is.
It reminds me a lot of like Disney's Tomorrowland or the Jetsons.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
There's something very, very charming to me about the imagined technology of the future, like what we think it will look like, but it was imagined, in the past.
It's weirdly, like anachronistic because they put things that are old school looking to us, but they made them futuristic.
Exactly. Like Tomorrowland and Disney World before it got an update, in the past decade or so, was very, very, very much 1970s, but it was 1970s future, 1970s futuristic, which is so funny because all you could imagine conceive was the design elements and the architecture and everything that was popular in the 1970s. Right. So I think that's fun, and I always like opportunities to see stuff like that.
Just one really relevant note on science fiction as a genre and why it's important is because it pushes us to try to achieve next level things that don't exist yet.
Yes.
It has always pushed us for the past 200 years since science fiction has existed.
We always say.
Since Mary Shelley invented the genre.
I was literally about to say, since Mary Shelley invented science fiction.
It wasn't H.G. Wells. It wasn't Jules Verne. It wasn't any of these guys. It was Mary Shelley.
How old was she?
She was 16 when she wrote
16?
it. Yeah. A teenager.
Yeah. Writing Frankenstein.
In 1818, it was published.
Mm-hmm.
So for a little over 200 years now, science fiction has always pushed us to achieve greater as human beings.
Which is a really great example of how we talk about fiction influencing life at all.
Yeah, exactly. That is one of the most obvious ways that life imitates art and that fiction has benefited humanity.
Absolutely.
The arts matter, people. The arts matter.
We love the arts. The arts matter. And also thinking about this kind of thing, I miss with all my heart working at Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I already mentioned I worked at Laugh Floor, but like I got to work at the Carousel of Progress, which was the only attraction that Walt Disney ever saw at Disney World because he passed before Disney World was complete. But that was created for the World's Fair in 1964.
Sure.
So
my dad saw that.
Man, I just loved Carousel of Progress. When I got to work there, that was like the best.
Very cool.
And also the worst because people suck. But if people didn't suck, it would have been
If it wasn't
amazing.
for all the droves of people who paid to be there.
Yeah. Gotta hate those guys.
I hate crowds.
I still have dreams sometimes that there's an intrusion. That's when somebody walks out while the show's in progress, which means the theater can't spin because if you don't know, listener, sorry, tangent, but speaking of technology, the theater of the Carousel of Progress actually rotates. The theater rotates around the stage.
Seating is what spins, not the stage.
Exactly. You are moving. It's not an illusion.
Right.
And so when people would leave in the middle of the show, you couldn't allow the ride to rotate until you ran around the entire building and made sure to escort those people away from the building.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So it was kind of a nightmare. But besides that, super
They
fun.
should fix that and make the stage spin just to fix it.
No, that's the whole point of it, is that the whole technology was new and amazing. You got to get on the ride. And
I'm a Disney fan.
I also didn't really have anywhere else to place it in my notes, but I have to say, beyond just the technology, the setting of the sparkling city of a pre-9/11 New York City,
the towers,
the bustling people, it reminded me so much of Oliver and Company.
Yes,
too,
it did.
when I was watching it, which had come out just prior to this.
I'm so impressed by any animation that captures cities like New York.
So beautiful.
There are so many details. You have to be just vague enough and obscure enough to you can't animate everything, but the way that you handle it, like the choices you make, that's what really...
That's going to influence the feeling. That's going to convey the feeling.
Right.
And it did to me.
Pretty cool.
To the point where, I watched both of those movies so much that by the time I went to New York City for the first time, I was 12.
Yeah.
I felt like I had been there.
Right.
Because
You're like, I know all this.
This
makes sense.
I know what this feels like. Yeah.
I want to go back.
Me too.
God.
I love New York. And speaking of Oliver and Company, I feel like one of those girls, I think it may have been the girl that wanted the Thanksgiving hat, but I could be wrong about that. One of the girls in the Wish Bubbles looked exactly like Jenny from Oliver and Company to me.
Lots of crossovers. 90s animation.
There was also a weird thing that I noticed, which I never saw when I was a kid, but when the dinosaurs are kicked off of the ship in the sky and they land in the Hudson River, they knock Louis off of his very carefully crafted, modern Tom Sawyer sort of raft. And when they pull him out of the water, he's dragging the toaster with him, where he was just making breakfast. And I just thought that was an odd choice. Why did you need to animate the toaster? Because generally speaking, people associate toasters and water with,
Very bad. Yeah, no, I didn't notice he had the toaster with him.
He didn't, I don't know if he was holding it or if it was wrapped around, which is just, why? That's dark.
That's weird.
For no reason.
Yeah.
To me. And he was using it to make breakfast, so it's not like it didn't have a power. Where was the power source? What are we working with? Did nobody get shocked here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know. Weird.
Yeah, where was his power source?
Where?
So his whole little raft, everything felt very futuristic. That could be a futuristic thing, but it was 1990s New York City. It wasn't...
It seemed like he cobbled it together, he's invented this.
Yeah, but no kid would be able to live like that in the 1990s in New York City, the harbor. It would never work.
No, I mean, you're not wrong.
It would never Anyway, it's an animated movie from the 90s. It's a kid's movie.
You are not wrong. Well, another thing that we've already discussed a little bit. You don't know what I'm gonna...
No.
I titled this section, and you're not going to understand it because you haven't heard Taylor Swift's newest album.
Oh my
but
God.
The girls that get it. I titled this section, Sexy Babies or Dinosaurs.
Okay.
It's a Taylor Swift lyric. It's about, aging out of Hollywood and yada yada. But
every day,
I thought it was appropriate because we continued to notice the way that they forced the romance between Louis and Cecilia.
God, it was so cringy and weird.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like you said, a lot of this movie made you uncomfortable, and I assumed that part of it was this forced romance between Louis and Cecilia.
It was, yes.
And also the suggestive pterodactyl. There was a lot to be uncomfortable about in this movie.
Why? It served no purpose.
No purpose. Again, it's a parental chuckle. That's what we get out of these things. But from the moment we meet Elsa the pterodactyl, she's rubbing up on Rex and trying to lay his eggs. That is almost a direct quote, listener.
Almost. Yeah,
she said,
he makes
the way
her
that
want
you're
to
looking
lay
at
an
me
egg.
makes me want to lay eggs.
It makes me want to, lay an egg.
It's like, I want to
my
have
God.
your child, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
And I really don't know what to make of it, but during the parade, to a Brontosaurus balloon, like an actual balloon that's part of the parade, Rex says,
Good to see somebody of a similar persuasion, if you know what I mean. Put her there.
Yeah.
sexual undertones, racial undertones. I don't know what that is.
I was very confused.
I don't know.
Either giant dinosaur, big-tailed dinosaur, big-dicked dinosaur.
Dinosaur at all.
I don't know. Like, he was very surprised at seeing another. I think it was just a large dinosaur.
You are a dinosaur in New York.
Yeah, but there were
Fancy
also
meeting you
3
here,
other
kind of thing.
dinosaurs just across the street.
Mm-hmm.
But he says a similar
It was
persuasion is me.
It was just a comedic. I think he just meant a dinosaur. It was just a comedic moment, but like,
I think he meant large
why?
featured.
Kids don't know what that means.
I don't know. No idea.
Kids don't know what that means.
Put her there.
And like I said, oh my God, I have almost called Louis TJ like 6 times just in this podcast. I'm actively fighting that instinct in my head, just so you know.
Nice.
But they go into his having a crush on Cecilia and not knowing what to do about it in that very stereotypical schoolyard boy way. Girls have cooties, ew.
Yeah.
While Cecilia is ever so much more mature, the way that they say all girls are, because they don't hold boys and girls to the same standard.
Nope.
Cecilia knows exactly what to do and say, and she is very much about this romance. But she's also just doing what she's been socialized to do. Let's be real.
I just don't get it. Like, you could have made them 16, 17 years old, and they're still children, but it's kind of more acceptable.
I was going to
They
say.
make her like she's 9 years old.
Yeah.
She talks like a baby.
Yes, some of these things have them as young as 7. I don't think that's true. I couldn't find how old they're intended to be. I would say like 11 or so,
I think
maybe, but
he's
10 or 11.
12, 13, maybe at most, like at the oldest. And at her oldest, 11.
Yeah.
And it's unreal how sexual.
But it's true of a
she
lot
is.
of things in the 90s, like the way that all of the dinos ship these kids together. As a kid, I did too, because
I guess.
I believe that every great film needs an element of romance. I've believed that since I was 4 years old, apparently.
It's fine.
So I get
it's
that.
fine. I don't have a problem with that.
But they definitely overdo it, I would say. And then when he drops in on her balcony and asks her to run away with him to the circus, I got the Aladdin, Peter Pan kind of vibe. But like you're saying, those characters are in their teens. They're at least like 5 to 8 years older than these
They're later
guys.
teens, yeah.
So it doesn't feel as weird. And it was fun, but also watching this as a grown-up, kind of uncomfortable.
It was weird. She wraps herself in his coat.
Yeah,
and like
she does.
shrugs up
She
against
gets into
him.
his coat.
And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, she was scared.
No, they were at the parade.
Oh, yeah, that does happen at the
And
parade.
she was like, ooh, I like you too.
Mm-hmm. Fluttery eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls her, I said that earlier, he calls her big eyes. Come on, big eyes.
You're killing me.
You're killing me.
And yeah, why is he talking
And I
like
was
he's like
oh,
a,
that's cute.
a 1940s noir detective?
I know,
Like,
I know.
the-
He's a kid from New York.
The dialogue is so strange in this movie. Anyway.
He's a New Yorker kid. That's how the New Yorker kids talk.
That's not
I
how
guess,
New
in
York kids talk. I
1993.
can promise you
Maybe
that.
they did in 1993.
I don't think so. No.
And yet again, I'm ending this section with something that I couldn't figure out where else to put it.
Put her there.
But one more note, if we're speaking in terms of dinosaur accuracy,
Yeah.
it is pointed out on several different sites that Wook, who is a triceratops, and Dweeb, who is I'm going to say it right,
A giant ducky.
a big ducky.
Mm-hmm.
Dweeb, who is a Parasaurolophus.
Okay.
I'm going to try it again. Wook, who is a triceratops, and Dweeb, who is a Parasaurolophus, were both herbivores. But when they first appear in the film, they are all eating hot dogs together. And this was way before the time of Beyond Meat and the Impossible Burger.
I don't know. Those hot dogs could be made purely of vegetables because they're from the far future.
They are from the far future. Maybe they are. We don't know. Maybe they are some sort of substitute. But we
then
do
also
see herbivores eating.
Rex eats the hot dog too, so who knows?
He does, but that doesn't mean, carnivores can eat meat alternatives.
Well, I guess they can.
They may not actively choose to.
I don't know how it works.
No.
How much do we actually know
I don't
about
think
dinosaurs?
a carnivore could eat a plant, but I think a carnivore could eat a plant-based protein.
Cats eat plants.
Right.
We don't.
I understand that you're disproving my point.
We don't know anything
I
about
don't know.
dinosaurs. The thing is, we keep learning new things about dinosaurs. So what do we actually know? Because they lived millions of years ago.
Millions of years ago.
What do we actually
We have
know?
no
We've only
idea.
been studying them for like What did you say? Dinosaur Renaissance?
Well, the dinosaur renaissance, yeah. Late 60s, when people were like, oh, maybe they're more like animals than we thought before.
When did we realize that dinosaurs existed? How long have we known this?
Oh, like, I don't know. 19th century?
70
17th
years?
century?
100 years?
Oh, more than that, probably. We've known about them for much longer, but I don't know how long we've like poured effort into researching them officially.
I want to know.
The Renaissance was just when people decided to be like, I think we can understand them better.
Right.
But speaking of understanding them better, Rex's 3 claws on his forearm are anatomically incorrect for a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Really?
He should have 2.
I see.
Older movies like Fantasia and the original King Kong make that mistake too and give their Tyrannosaurus Rex type creatures 3 fingers because intact T-Rex forearms had not been discovered yet.
Idiots.
But this changed in 1989 when complete forearm specimens began to enter the fossil record. And it had been a prominent theory for many decades before 89 that T-Rex had 2 claws, but...
Freaking morons. All of them.
What are you going to do?
God.
Like you said, they lived a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away from us, but I do love learning about them.
And now they want to tell me that T-Rex had feathers? No.
Didn't they say that?
Recently, I think. Something. They're just giant chickens.
Hey, I was literally about to say, I maintain that T-Rexes are akin to chickens, so...
No, they aren't. No, I mean, I think, well, that's the going theory.
Yeah. Chickens are terrifying.
They-
I am so afraid of poultry.
Well, there are so many more chickens than there are humans. So, I mean, if they wanted to have a
my God.
revolt, they could do it.
So many creatures. There are more of them than...
Don't even
of
get me started on the
humans.
ants.
No, I was literally about to say, the
Ants,
world is 13%
spiders.
ants by volume.
Yeah, no,
Thanks,
it's-
Travis. My friend Travis taught me that, but 13% ants by volume.
Let's
of
hope they never...
The world. That is all ants, guys. Under your feet.
Let's hope ants never eat the brain grain, because they would
If ants
rule
ate brain
the
grain,
world.
we would be in deep, deep trouble.
They would do to us what the crows do to Dr. Screw Eyes.
Professor Screw Eyes.
Instantly. We would all dissipate.
They would vaporize us.
Absolutely.
You're right.
Absolutely.
And let's get into Screw Eyes, shall we? I'm ready to talk about his eccentric circus.
Professor Screw Eyes, more like Professor Screw Eye,
Just the one, huh?
because there's only one.
There's only one screw eye in his head.
Also, why are these 2 completely related males? Why do they have 2 different last names?
We'll get there. First, I do want to talk about his circus.
Okay.
And there's so much to say that I admit I do break these scenes down in a little bit more detail.
Well, this is the best part. We should break this down.
This is the best part, so we are here for it. Even just their trip through Central Park at night as darkness is falling makes it feel more like a darkly enchanted forest. And that had me on the edge of my seat as a kid.
It did feel very Snow White.
Snow
to me.
White. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they're going into the depths of this deep forest.
I mean, Central Park at night is nothing to sniff at.
No, it really isn't. It definitely isn't. But I did have to laugh at all of the desaturated folks that had piercings and alternative hair because
Such stereotyping.
I'm not afraid of those guys.
No,
I became
those
those
are
guys.
our friends now.
Yeah, that's me now. Like, that's my crowd.
Those people are not punks. They're cool.
They're very cool.
That's so funny.
But it was just so funny to me that they were so scary to Louis and Cecilia when I'm like, what do you mean? That's who I am as a
Such a
person.
juxtaposition.
And I would totally have wanted to go and see Screw Eye's eccentric circus.
Oh, absolutely.
If I was given the opportunity.
I want to go now. I'd go now.
Same.
Show
Same.
me the exact thing I'm afraid of. Absolutely.
Cool.
Let's see it, because I don't know.
You're thinking of like Stephen King, It sort of parallels, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
this is...
Sure.
Okay, we'll get to that. We're
right,
going
go
to
ahead.
roll into this scene and describe it just in case there are people that haven't seen it and need a little bit more context. So if you are unfamiliar, the kids go looking for the circus because they have always wanted to run away to the circus. So that's their goal.
Right.
But the dinosaurs are on a mission to go to the Museum of Natural History. That's where they're going to be in an exhibit and make all the wishes come true.
Right.
But obviously, when the dinosaurs meet the kids say, let's go to the circus. And the dinosaurs are cool with that. And then they get split up during the chaos of the parade, and the dinosaurs see a poster for Screw Eyes Eccentric Circus because they know that the circus,
Right.
before then they just know it as the circus,
Yes.
is Screw Eyes Circus, and it's in Central Park. So they know these two are the same
Because they
things.
keep missing the late and blind Mrs. Bleep or whatever her name is.
Dr. Bleeb.
And
Yeah, just behind them every time. She's from the Museum of Natural History. She's supposed to help them.
Bleep. And then they encounter the exact person they're supposed to avoid, Professor Screw Eyes.
Literally prompting Rex to see the poster and say, wait, that's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because in the ship, Captain New Eye says, this is my brother. He's lost. He's a dark soul. Whatever. Avoid him. He's always up to his mischief. And they go and find the one person in the whole of New York City that they weren't supposed to find at the circus because they have to follow the kids now. You know, they want to go and make sure the kids are okay.
An entire world of people. The person they're supposed to see and the person they're not supposed to see are in the same exact city.
Go
of
figure.
This world of billions of people.
It is just the place where they were dropped off, though.
It's a small world.
So the kids do eventually find the circus in Central Park. It's all glowing and ghoulish with neon signs reading things like Labyrinth, Naughty Boys Delight.
Naughty Boys Delight.
They showed this sign repeatedly, y'all. Naughty Boys Delight.
It was featured heavily.
And also House of
of Sin.
If you're a regular listener, you know that I've always loved the circus lights and the neon and the carnival vibe and the midway. Love it. Think it's cool. But this also might be why I've always associated it with darker themes.
Maybe so.
Also, if you watched this movie as a kid, or even if you didn't and you're just hearing about it, write in and tell us what you thought Naughty Boys Delight meant as a child. Because I had no clue watching it. I was like, Naughty Boys, because I could read. I mean, I read really early. I read really young.
Yeah, you were having adult conversations at like 2.5.
You would have hated me as a child.
I would have not liked you. But I obviously don't know what I would have thought of that as a kid. But I have a few ideas of what Naughty Boys Delight means
now
as an adult.
Sure. And watching it, I was surprised to see that, to be honest. I was like, what's the purpose? Again, to make the adults laugh. But guess what? Some kids can also read, by the way. It's not like you're spelling it out and they can't sound, they can't
it's the
spell.
darndest thing. Kids do learn to read in school.
They are teaching something.
They are taught to read.
Man.
I don't know.
It was
House of
just
Sin.
seeing that again. I was like, yeah, House of Sin. It just really got to me. I was like,
I did try to see what else was written out, spelled out for us, but those were the 3 I got to.
Yeah.
So
seeing that again, I was like, this is where our podcast belongs.
Absolutely.
This is where we are meant to be.
No, yeah, we were watching it and you texted me and you were like, okay, now this is why this movie belongs in our podcast. I was like, oh.
Get it now.
I get it.
Sure.
I get it.
Because before that, you were like, what are you making me watch? But in the first 15, 20 minutes, I was waiting for him to text me and be like, what the f- is this?
And I did.
And he did.
I did. I was like, what
He
the
delivered.
hell is happening? I thought the sadness and the darkness was going to come from the dinosaurs having to like go back to sleep, go bye-bye. You die again. You go extinct again.
Oh.
I was pleasantly surprised to see a dark carnival.
Yeah.
I love a dark
Not
carnival.
on your bingo card, I guess.
No, it certainly wasn't.
For this movie.
Certainly wasn't. And I didn't read this until I was an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes.
The idea of like an amusement park or a carnival gone wrong or
something
bad,
pops
evil.
up and it lures children
The
in.
Evil Wiki or something like that. It's like the Evil Wiki fandom that talks about all things villainous and dark.
Yeah.
They talk a lot about that trope, the circus of fear.
Yes.
And
I love it.
It's very prominent, but this was my introduction to that concept.
Right.
For sure. And we become aware that there's an even more ominous element to this place as Professor Screw Eyes cons the children into signing a contract, which is invisible before they sign it, with the terms appearing only afterward to join his circus like they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And they sign it literally in their own blood.
It's wild.
They prick their fingers and sign this contract, touch a dot of blood to the paper. This moment was so strangely sickening to me as a child.
It's horrifying.
It's just Tom Sawyer, okay, like I understand the idea of like a blood pact and everything, but it feels so deeply like,
it feels final.
Dark and heavy. Final is the word. You're exactly right.
It feels like because you also would have known about the devil. It's like signing your soul away,
comparison.
signing the devil's book.
Mm-hmm.
You just sold your soul to the devil.
You sold your soul to the devil. It's that feeling.
When you've done that, you cannot go to heaven. You cannot be saved.
Mm-hmm.
You are doomed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that concept terrified me.
You would have understood that on a very
At
deep
4 years
level.
old, I absolutely did. I understood very well what a blood covenant meant and the permanence and the finality of such a thing.
Right.
And not to mention that we had been, as children, force-fed for the previous 45 minutes that this is the bad guy.
Yeah.
So you know, even though the kids don't know, they don't have that benefit, you as an audience member, as a child, know that this is the bad guy that they've just signed their soul away to in blood.
Yep.
And that's pretty dark.
Kids movie.
It's rough. He says,
among my many other rights under this contract, including copyrights on all their ideas, I've got an exclusive option on their willpower.
Yeah.
it's like,
The copyright on all of their ideas is what really messed me up the most. Because I was like, someone taking my ideas? No.
oh yeah, that would ruin you. You'd not be okay with that.
It happens all the time.
Well, they don't necessarily take them from you. It's just that you have similar ideas to other people is more what's happening in those
I'll take
cases.
Mike Flanagan to court.
Nobody has actually taken them from your brain, as much as it may feel like they have.
Right. Not yet. Not yet.
And like I was saying with the dinosaurs, at some point in this sequence, you know, the kids have been separated and the dinosaurs do find them. And they find out that the kids have signed away their lives to the circus, basically. The dinosaurs make it to the circus, not too far behind the kids, but they are too late to save them from themselves and the hypnotic screw eye of the professor.
Right. Do we get into the logistics of how that eye would work?
Maybe a little bit. I want to hear your thoughts, but we'll get there.
Okay.
In contrast to the wish radio that Captain New Eyes uses, Professor Screw Eyes shows the kids his fright radio. And he explains that wishes are loud, but fears are even louder.
This is a fright radio. It picks up what people are scared to death of. You see, I find out what they're frightened of on this radio, and that's what I try to give them with my circus. It's a public service.
But this is the station that comes in the loudest of all.
Wow. I mean,
Vomit. I love it and I hate
it's
it.
beautiful and it's great and it's not that wrong. I mean,
Oh, it's not wrong at all. It's entirely correct, which is why it hits so
the
hard.
fear is always so much stronger. Well, I mean, then you look at like Monsters, Inc. and they do the opposite. They go from fear to laughter.
They go from fear to laughter, you're right.
But, you know, there is something to be said for this element of like the fear emotion is so intense because it actually is. And I think in real life, it is way
Away
more,
from the magic of the movies, fear is probably a stronger element than hope.
Fear and all that kind of stuff takes it really.
It hijacks your body. It hijacks your nervous system. I would know.
Yeah.
Everything, really.
Controls so much of what we do.
I knew that you would appreciate this part, if nothing else. So I'm glad to hear that I wasn't totally off base with that.
This is the part I took notes on.
I would also like to note that the fright radio, same like mechanism as the wish radio. It's this retro looking dial.
Yeah.
And the levels on it go from nervous to paranoid to screaming Mimi.
Yep. Screaming Mimi. Old Mike
And I can't
Flanagan.
say screaming Mimi without thinking of Hill House.
Yeah, no.
I just can't. But that's the highest setting.
But I do really, really, really appreciate this whole wish radio versus the fear radio.
Fright
This is
radio.
dreams versus nightmares.
Definitely.
They reference a dream theme multiple times,
They want to make dreams come true.
which we'll get to when he says it's just a bad dream. You'll wake up tomorrow. So it is this very much dream versus nightmares thing. And like, I like that these two brothers are like, they're two sides of the same coin.
I have that exact phrase in my notes too. Well, I want to talk about their duality and the morality that's implied in the next section.
Got it.
I have a whole conversation ready to go.
Cool.
But the fears of children that pour out of the radio, appearing like spirits themselves, they're very similar to some of the spirits we see in other films like Pagemaster.
Yeah.
And even Casper to a degree. But they're very ghostly in nature. They're not bubbles. They're not happy, floaty, dreaming things.
And it looks like
they're fears.
It looks like the ghost of dead children.
Yeah, they're ghosts of what we fear most, I guess, is the best way to describe it. But I remember this scene so well. I remember every detail of this scene. My Kaylin child brain like sucked it all in very deep and kept this with me. Also, in contrast to New Eye's brain grain cereal, Screw Eyes presents the children with some glowing pills. Look like pills, like
They do.
medicine. Drugs, which he calls the antidote. Brain drain.
Brain drain.
Brain drain is to reverse your knowledge and dumb you down to a primitive level.
Plebeian.
He presents the drugs in such a way that was very interesting to like my 2022 eyes.
Yeah.
Because it seems like there was a little bit of an anti-drug sentiment in here too.
Just say no.
Just say no. Because they make it very clear that these pills are bad.
Yeah.
They're glowing green, much like the caustic cocktail from Page Master.
I was just going to say, it reminded me so much of the Jekyll and Hyde scene.
Yes, it absolutely does. Oh,
would you like a drink?
I keep saying absolutely, and I'm annoying myself with it, but
stop.
It does
because it has that like radiating like
chemical like radiation. It's radioactive.
We've seen Dexter's Lab.
Sure.
If it glows, it's bad.
Mm-hmm. Bad news bears.
Get it out of here.
It's caustic. We don't need that.
Toxic. A toxic brain.
And so this anti-drug sentiment was more prominent than I think I remembered or expected it to be, because they did depict it as a very negative or bad thing.
Yeah.
And I also notice that even though we see him menacingly break the pill in half and offer the two kids like a temporary dose,
right,
to demonstrate what it does,
yeah,
the moment where Louis and Cecilia actually take the pills was either cut,
right,
or it was never animated at all.
We don't see them.
Though it feels more like it was intentionally cut to prevent kids from,
right,
like repeating that behavior,
wanting to take a pill to see if they can turn into a monkey.
A monkey. Right. They intentionally don't show the children ingesting the pill.
Right.
And I'm glad in this case that the Pretty Darkness has some limits. But either way, it was still traumatizing to me and my child self to see what we do get to see, which is instead of popping pills, we see the kids' shadows contort and shrink and hunch down to resemble primates rather than, Homo sapiens standing upright.
Right.
And he explains, as he holds up these two monkeys dressed as Louis and Cecilia, that they'll be the wild children of Hellzapoppin.
Did you look up Hellzapoppin?
I didn't, did you?
I did.
Tell me about Hellzapoppin, because in my head, it's just what he seems to be calling this cage exhibit where he wants to keep the kids.
Well, I don't know the intention of their reference. It was a very obscure thing, but this was a very famous Broadway play, Once Upon a Time. It was an old musical.
Dang, you're telling me about Broadway.
Yeah, from the 1940s. It was, at the time, the longest running Broadway show.
Whoa.
Until, I'm sure, like, freaking Cats or something like that. I have no idea.
Was it about a zoo?
No, it was just a bunch of, I looked up a video, I'll send it to you.
Like Hadestown?
Look, guys, look up Hellzapoppin.
I will.
And then just, like, watch whatever the trailer is that pops up for it. It's not a trailer, but there was a movie made based off of the Broadway musical.
Immediately gonna find that.
It's fun. It's fun as hell.
So he threatens to do this unless their dinosaur friends agree to take the brain drain and join his circus in their place as the frightening monsters that they really are deep down inside.
Right.
He's got them right where he wants them.
A regular old catch-22. It
was always way, way too heavy for me emotionally as the dinosaurs each shed a tear and agree to save their friends. Like, I'll do it. Me too. Like, it's sad. It's rough because they've given away their lives. Now the dinosaurs are going to give their lives to save Louis and Susie.
Yeah, but you know what? These things were born evil. Like, not evil. They were born as dinosaurs.
Look, there's some bias in you.
Take that away. I'm going to cut that out. They were born as animals.
They were.
They should.
So you just think they're returning to their original state?
There's just nothing lost there.
They were never meant to be what they are right now. Is what
they were never meant to do what they're doing and talk and walk around New York City. It just doesn't need to happen.
But it's sad.
It's not sad.
It caused chaos.
It's not sad.
It is sad.
Because
this is a sad moment.
They went round robin multiple times telling me what their names were over and over again. I don't care what your names are. And now you're all going to go around round
all
robin.
All the kids that wanted to meet dinosaurs.
They're going to tell me, I'll do it. I'll do it too.
I'll do it.
Me too.
I'll do it too.
I'll do it too.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm like, just do it already. Stop talking about it.
No, it makes me sad. And Rex gently strokes their sleeping shoulder with his incorrectly anthropomorphized claw. And my heart just breaks into pieces. Christian's doesn't, but mine does.
No, it didn't do it for me this time.
That hurts me. It still hurts. But I think it's also because I remember feeling that emotion at 4 years old.
Look, this is no Land Before Time.
Oh, no, it's not. I'm not saying that it is. Haven't compared it so far.
I will shed my tears for Littlefoot.
When we get to Land Before Time.
All right.
Mm-hmm. God, and the tree stars.
Oh, my God.
So we get a brief break from the darkness as the kids awaken the next day to eat pancakes on the floor.
Hey,
all dogs go to heaven style.
That's a good Saturday.
Provided by a disgruntled circus clown named Mr. Stubbs.
Yeah.
Who looks eerily similar to Mr. Snoops from Disney's The Rescuers. Do you know The Rescuers?
I do and I don't.
There's a clown in that looks very much like this.
I don't recall the clown.
God, I love The Rescuers. I watched The Rescuers a lot, specifically The Rescuers Down Under. I think we've mentioned it before, but
Right.
loved it. And I've never been afraid of clowns. And other than Ronald McDonald, bearer of the chicken nuggets, Stubbs was one of my earlier introductions to the clown. So I guess thanks to Martin Short, that's not a fear that plagues me. Many fears do.
Yeah,
but
no, I'm not
clowns.
afraid of clowns at all.
The kids talk Stubbs into showing them where their friends have gone. And they end up joining in on that evening's show dressed as demons to blend in.
Right.
This gives major Double Double Toil in Trouble vibes.
Does it?
They dress as the evil thing to gain entry to the place they need to be.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They do the same thing. But there's a reveal of the dinosaurs, and they are now their, let's just say, less than loving selves, chained up and very, very angry. They are the prehistoric version of the dinosaurs that we saw at the beginning of the film, which are scary.
It's what dinosaurs should be.
If that's not what they want to be in their heart,
That's not true.
then I disagree. So the circus begins, and Screw Eyes welcomes his pierced and tattooed audience to the most frightening night of their lives.
Welcome to the most terrifying show on the planet Earth.
And we get a ton of pyro and holograms and music and special effects. And like we said before, this is now in my notes. I can't help but think this was a complete missed opportunity for a musical number.
Oh, agreed.
And I know they really never even intended to have the other musical number in this movie. That was added at the last minute.
Right.
But like we said, Friends on the Other Side, playing with the big boys now.
Or even freaking, oh my God, Score.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
This could have been a contender.
Could have been good.
I love a good villain song. This could have been up there, but no musical number, unfortunately.
Nope.
But I still remembered this whole scene very vividly, down to the hooded skeletons that are very dark. Like when you think about it, it seems like they're hanging from the rafters.
Yeah.
But one loses his mask at one point, kind of comically, like shows you that he's a human under there.
Yeah.
Which is just to remind us kids that we're safe.
Right. Right.
During the show, to prove that he is indeed the master of fear, which is what he's trying to accomplish, Professor Screw Eyes uses his screw eye to hypnotize this terrifying Rex monster.
Yes, he does.
Were you going to say something about the mechanics of the hypnosis? Because hypnosis was another one of those things. I accepted it as a kid without hesitation.
Hypnosis was very common.
I get it.
We saw that in a lot of Looney Tunes stuff.
Yeah.
So we just sort of accepted it. But the story is he went mad because he lost his eye.
He lost his eye.
We don't learn how, right?
That's the only thing that is said about it, is when New Eyes is introducing the character to the dinosaurs. He says,
yeah. And so he's replaced his missing eye with a screw, supposedly,
yes,
which we see later.
Painful.
But it would have to screw into his skull or something, or just
I guess he just popped it in there.
into the eye socket, which it would just pop out all the time. We've seen Pirates of the Caribbean. But also he's able to use the screw to hypnotize literally anything and anyone that has a soul or a brain or an eye to look into.
It drove him mad, and then now he uses it to hypnotize others. So is it like a magic
Do you think
screw?
the screw drove him mad?
I guess.
Or did losing his eye drive him mad?
I guess both.
I don't know.
I just wouldn't have replaced it with a screw if it were me.
No, for sure not.
I can think of many better things to put in my eye socket. Maybe not many, but at least 2 or 3.
I can't think of anything good at all that I would put into my eye socket.
Not a screw. Anything but a screw, really.
Among the worst things, I think.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God. But he must have, that must be it. Like, we need a Professor Screw Eyes prequel, a backstory. We need to see how he lost his eye.
I would love to know.
Why he was enticed to replace it with a screw. A magical screw he discovered in his journeys, his travels.
And where did he find the magical screw?
And why is he accompanied by a murder of crows that we find out actually call the shots, and he is actually afraid of the crows?
But I think that's kind of, we will talk about his fear and his psyche.
Okay.
But I do think that that's part of it. Like, he commands these creatures as an act of bravado when really, ultimately, he's afraid of everything.
He's trying to become the master of fear because he's afraid.
Exactly.
That's the undertone.
That's the whole story.
That's the underlying message that I think is missed if you're not paying attention. But
and we're almost there.
Okay.
I want to talk more about that, actually. But let's just say for now that this hypnosis doesn't go well for Screw Eyes.
No.
in my mind, you play with fire, you're going to get burned. You chain up a dinosaur in his dinosaur mind, and then you unchain him and expect him not to eat you.
I was waiting for the
Not
chomp.
a good bet. But at one point, Louis even screams, he's going to kill the professor, which, damn, that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Because he almost did. There was a moment there.
He delayed.
And I wasn't so sure.
He delayed for a long time.
And one last note about the circus itself. I thought that I was seeing things, but there are some trivia sites that confirm that the design on the main stage of the circus, the center ring, I guess, it alternates between a pentagram and like a more generic series of triangles, like lasers, and the design that it makes.
I saw
Because I was
it.
like, that looks like a pentagram. And then
Yeah.
the next time I saw it, it wasn't. I was like, okay, I guess it wasn't.
I saw the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, they went for it.
Satanic.
They really went for it. But honestly, the saddest part of the circus to me now might just be like the mindless elephant zombies marching in. Like, that's depressing on a whole nother level.
Yeah, but that's because of Dumbo.
That is because of Dumbo.
We were...
And water for elephants.
Yeah, elephants broke our heart.
Oh, I love a good elephant story. But not pink elephants on parade.
No, but I do love the elephant that killed that woman and then went to her funeral and trashed her funeral.
That was like a pretty recent news story, huh? Like, there was literally... We may have even talked about it on the show before because it's so bizarre.
I think we may have... Yeah, I know. You brought it up.
He had it out. That elephant had it out for that woman. I don't know what she
did something to that elephant. That's all I know.
That elephants don't forget. We
Elephants
do know that
never
much.
forget. I learned that from the wild thornberries.
Hey, Eliza taught you that, did she?
Mostly Darwin.
So now, I just want to dig in a little bit to the idea of morality as it's presented in the movie. We have this very Jekyll and Hyde, dark and light duality.
Yeah.
And so I just want to dive into it a little bit.
Let's dive.
The overarching theme of this film is honestly kind of tough to pin down, but we have quite a lot of references to distill it very much, basically saying how senseless violence and anger and bravado weaken our society.
Mm-hmm.
And that the root of these things, these behaviors, is usually fear.
Yeah.
Rex explains very early on in the movie that he started off quoting stupid and violent. And that theme carries through this movie.
And hungry.
Hungry all the time.
All the time.
I might be being too generous, but it is true. I mean, the root of those behaviors is fear. And it's not something that's talked about, especially not very often in kids' movies.
We've talked about this before on the podcast, even with like the Tale of the Dark Music, about where, you know, this toxic masculinity, this anger, how typically men tend to use their fear.
Yeah, we got into it a good bit.
To justify anger and brutality and
very true,
quote unquote evil.
We also get a huge helping of the same knowledge is power idea that was just beginning to kind of color the edges of 90s media.
Right.
And this is through a completely different lens because the whole like eat your Wheaties idea was taken to a new extreme.
Eat your
because brain grain cereal is literally force fed to these guys.
Yeah.
In order to provide the knowledge of good and evil, essentially. They're eating the apple.
That's true. Wow. Damn. All right.
There apparently is a deleted scene. I didn't write this down, but I did read about it. There's a deleted scene where they're force feeding them. I don't remember if it was brain grain or brain drain, but there was another force feeding scene that they cut out because it was too much. And I was like, it was pretty intense the first time.
Seems like brain drain.
They shove the nozzle in there and make it happen. So yeah, it may have been the brain drain, but my God, I think that was like the moment, like we don't see the dinosaurs take it. We don't see the dinosaurs transform. Right. We just reveal when they've been drained.
Yeah.
But as we're talking about good and evil, this film doesn't even try to be subtle.
No.
We keep coming upon this. The protagonist and the antagonist, although, you know, we have the protagonist as the kids and the dinosaurs, etc., but it's at the core of it, this feels like a rivalry between Captain New Eyes and Professor Screw Eyes.
Yeah.
They're ultra polarizing. They're opposites in every way, down to the rhymes.
Yeah, I noticed
and like
that
you
too.
said, there's a Jekyll and Hyde vibe happening here. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Absolutely.
Two sides of the same coin.
There it is.
We've got the brain drain, the brain grain. We've got even, I thought this was interesting, you know, the light versus the dark. We've got a museum versus a carnival.
Right.
Are they trying to make a statement like educational versus frivolous?
I hope that's not the case. I think they were...
I hope not either.
I'm hoping they just went, what's the most obvious structural example of like knowledge? Well, a museum. what's the most obvious structural like representation of some sort of fear or danger or mystery or the unknown.
I think you're right. It's an interesting thought.
You're
it's very
right,
interesting.
But I'm hoping.
And I played with it in my head a little bit too, because I was like, Captain Screw Eyes, Professor New Eyes. I was like, does that work? Could it ever? I know that's flip. I know I flipped it. That's what I'm saying.
Got it.
I played with it in my head like, is Captain, does that sound inherently more heroic than Professor? Because Professor is heroic in a lot of other contexts.
Because I would say Professor is way more enlightening. Captain is more of the rugged.
Exactly.
You're right.
So I just wondered, I was like, what was the purpose of that? But Captain, like superhero vibe. Sure. But I twisted it around, just curious.
It is interesting because, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, they went with Louis Stevenson went with Doctor versus Mr.
But Doctor is still enlightened. Professor is enlightened.
Professor's enlightened.
So
I don't know. That is right.
Professor Screw Eyes.
They also invented these equal but opposite radios.
Yes. The Wish radio versus the Fright radio that look identical.
They each have 3 options, like past, middle, future, far future versus what is
All of the dials in this movie have 3 options.
3. Whatever, paranoid, screaming memes.
Yep.
So funny.
It's interesting to me that even the dinosaurs are viewed through these independent lenses of these brothers. One sees them as inherently ferocious, and that's the man who desires to scare kids and ruin their childhood. And then we have the other man who wants to make dreams come true and to fulfill, wishes and every heart's desire. And he sees these dinosaurs as kind and intelligent, and he wants these creatures that everybody loves so much to be the creatures that everybody loves so much.
Yeah.
And they each want to use the dinosaurs for those purposes, but just completely for different reasons.
At what point can I vouch for Professor Screw Eyes and take his side?
I assumed that you would identify, no offense, with Professor Screw Eyes.
No, you're the one saying he wants to ruin childhoods. I think that's false.
Not that you want to ruin childhoods.
I don't think he does either. That's false. Completely.
He wants to help them understand.
There's an incredible number of people who love horror.
No, you're right.
And try to write horror. DJ McHale. We have R.L. Stine. Stephen King. Incredible, phenomenal thinking people.
Shirley Jackson.
Shirley Jackson. I didn't mean to leave out the women. Sorry. Shirley Jackson and Mary Shelley and everybody who wants to write these horrific things.
It's not necessarily that I think he wants to ruin childhoods. That's just like stuff, like the general opinion online seems to be that people think that way. But you're right.
People they don't know how to see the gray.
Yeah.
I think that they want to call him a villain because they're looking at this as an animated 90s movie, and Disney is good versus evil. And this is not Disney, but they're looking at it.
Binary thinking.
It's binary. And so I think, and this may not fit here in this discussion.
No, I think it does.
But with the duality of these 2 brothers who have 2 different last names. Somehow, I think.
Not that brothers can't have different last names.
But was his name Screw Eyes before he found the screw eye? Maybe
I think he adopted that identity.
He adopted a new identity. Maybe in the future you choose your own name, which, wow, what a thought. I think he had very, very pure good intentions. I think he is an afraid person who loves fear. He likes to be, he's afraid, but he's found his identity in that fear.
In the fear.
Like you and I have.
We have.
And I know for sure I have, because I know that I realized that 10 years ago when I wanted to be a writer, and I went, what do I want to write? Well, I like this stuff.
Write what you're afraid of.
I like this weird stuff that's kind of scary. I think he started off with very pure intentions of really trying to capture what people are most afraid of and to achieve this like higher level of fear or fright and feed it to them through entertainment, which it is a carnival. It is a circus. That's the purpose it serves, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
No, I agree.
People
I fully
love
agree.
this stuff.
I have no problem whatsoever with the circus and exploring your fears. Clearly, if you know me, if you've listened to the show,
right,
I have no issue with that. The part that I have issue with is taking advantage of children.
The same part that I have a problem with.
To
I think
fulfill your dream or your desire or your money status, whatever it is that he's getting from this experience.
I think he lost his way. I'm just saying, I think he
cares about the bottom line, and he knows how much he can make off of these monsters.
I think it's harder than he thought it was going to be.
Because that's what he says is like everybody's biggest fear.
Yeah. I think it was harder than he thought it was going to be. And no matter how much fear and entertainment he created over the years, he continued to be afraid. It didn't cure what ailed him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like and then he got desperate.
It was a black hole.
Yes.
It sucked
he
him
kept trying
in.
to fill this void.
He didn't fill the void, yeah.
Because he didn't do it the right way or whatever reason you want to fit in here. And so I think he did lose his way eventually, to the point where he is willing to basically, buy the souls of these children. It doesn't end up in a good spot, but I think he meant well. I think he's very human.
Yeah.
I just think he's human.
No,
I don't think he's
agree.
this evil.
I think he's very, very human.
I don't know, that he can be rightfully, he technically is a villain, but I don't think he is a pure villain.
He's more human than a lot of villains we see.
Yes. Yes.
Which may be part of the reason that I love this movie so much. I don't want to give 4-year-old Kaylin too much credit, but I saw something in this that I identified with or appreciated.
Yes.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have kept watching it. It resonated with me. And it wasn't just, Rex. And I didn't identify with Captain New Eyes. I can say that much.
No, for sure not.
So it's like I had something in this darkness that I wanted to explore.
I just,
now I'm 30 and have a podcast about it.
I just wanted to voice that this guy is not a black and white villain. He's not like...
I appreciate that. I'm right there with you.
He's just not.
I agree.
We've seen much more...
They try to cast it in a dark, light, good, evil, binary way.
Right.
However, they leave us with a little bit of questioning about Screw Eyes and his intention.
He's an antagonist, but he's not the bad guy. He's not a villain.
Ultimately, spoiler alert, Louis gets through to this violent prehistoric Rex, and by extension the rest of the dinosaurs, with a heartfelt plea for him to return to his kind and loving sensibilities.
Yep.
I swear I almost called him TJ again. Louis says,
"Don't ruin everything because you're mad or scared or something. I know I act like I'm the original tough guy, but that's because I'm scared too."
Yeah, I did appreciate that.
Bowing up to fight these desaturated people on Cece's behalf, and the whole time he's like, "Why I oughta," right. He's leading with anger too. He's leading with violence too.
Sure.
And so I think that's the point, is kind of showing that even he is turning his thinking upside down and saying, it's all an act.
He's learning
for
too.
all of us. It is. He's learning.
Right.
And he tells Rex, "And you are the original tough guy. Don't just be another slob, spoiling the way the world can be."
Yeah, right. I appreciated that.
And I liked it too. I really did. That's some far future wisdom coming through.
Far future. You're right.
I'm going to insert here that one of the first things that I was struck by visually about this movie were all of the reflections.
There were a lot. Yeah.
Hubcaps, Rex's glasses, every surface, the river, the Hudson River reflecting the city.
Screw Eyes' eye.
Screw Eyes' eye.
Eventually.
Every single surface that would even be a tiny bit reflective in life is animated to be very reflective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure why, but it is interesting to me, like we said before, and I tended to forget about it as a kid completely, but the whole story is actually being told as a reflection by Rex.
Right.
To a kid, a bird, who seems to want a little too much independence.
Yeah.
So he's reflecting on his life and this time in New York City, but it's all shiny and shimmery, and we see both sides. We see this reflection, this mirror idea visually over and over and over. And I know right now I have to be giving them too much credit for that, but I thought it was cool watching it back.
I wondered my first time watching if that wasn't just a story he made up, or if that wasn't like his actual story.
Origin story. I assume now that it was only done to basically lessen the intensity or finality of seeing the dinosaurs that you now care about being completely brain drained.
Yeah, maybe.
Because we know, if we think about it, where he ends up. We know this wasn't permanent because we saw him at the beginning of the movie and he was playing golf.
Yeah, I don't know. Other movies did it without promising us a happy ending.
It's true. You're right.
All of them, almost.
Almost. But once their brains are restored, Captain New Eyes joins the party, and I ask, "Where have you been this whole time, my guy? Where in space were you floating around that you couldn't intervene before now?" But he notes that he showed up because he heard a very general wish from Cecilia. She says it whenever Rex acts like he's about to eat Professor
I'm going to
Screw Eyes.
hear this phrase for the rest of my life.
Cecilia says,
"Oh, please, don't let that happen."
That's her wish, which that was my prayer and mantra for the next several years of my life after I watched this.
Sure.
Always, really.
Sure.
And it goes back to that idea of the Christian God, like hoping he was hearing, let no bad happen. Whatever, because my imagination can go a million miles an hour. And I would ask specifically, please don't let this happen or that happen or that happen.
Yep.
But sometimes I would get tired and I would just say, please don't let anything bad happen.
I would do that too.
And it seems like that's what Cecilia's doing. But a lot of the moral of this story comes back to the fact that you don't have to act all tough and mean. And fear is what's at the core of those feelings.
Yep.
And it also goes to show the lengths that fearful and lonely people will go to in order to feel like they have some control or belonging.
Right.
Like, who among us, all of us have lashed out sometimes in an attempt to control a situation or feel more, or to try to feel like we belong more.
Yeah. No,
in a moment.
More secure.
Yeah, any situation that's made us uncomfortable or caused us pain, we want to feel more secure.
Right.
And I think you're right. I think that's exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like we keep alluding to, rather than be killed in some triumphant way, the heroes show mercy, as I think true heroes should.
Right.
And they instead choose to simply leave Professor Screw Eyes alone with his thoughts and his ruined circus and his murder of crows, which is definitely punishment enough. The way that he was vaporized by the crows is nonsensical.
It is.
But it haunted me.
It gets so empty.
Haunted me. As the crows descend on him, it gets empty. It gets hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And Screw Eyes says,
Brother, wait. When I am alone, when I have no one to scare, I get very frightened myself.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the core of it.
Yes.
And you can say what you want about the dialogue for this film, but I love that line.
That's a good line.
It's a great line. I really love it.
The crows could...
And that's it.
Uh-huh.
And they descend.
And there's nothing left but the screw.
He vaporizes, I guess.
Yeah, that's the best way I could put it.
It's so intense.
There's a website called the AV Club, and they ranked Screw Eyes devouring by the crows as the 19th most terrifying moment in children's entertainment.
It's up there.
By the way. So
it is up there.
I think so. But the film has to close out with a touch of whimsy, and it's presented a bit strangely, having the dinosaurs work at an exhibit in the Museum of Natural History.
Right.
And they only come to life when the kids are kept behind and the parents are instructed to wait outside. And I don't know if it's just like my 2022 self seeing that.
Yeah, no, I
but I don't like that.
I don't like it.
I don't like it at all. Like
the parents will wait outside, and once it's just you and the children
once
alone,
it's just
you'll
the kids and
reveal the magic or whatever. I was like,
I didn't want to go there with it, but I was like, why do you have to, like, I understand the whole film, I understand the reasoning because we're seeing kids that are delighting at the dinosaurs being real and
parents are
adults
afraid.
being terrifying.
Adults are scared,
because, adults are smarter than kids in some cases, I should say.
Rightfully so.
But, they know enough to run away from a dinosaur.
We will make the parents wait outside.
Yeah, I just didn't love that.
And when you're alone.
And they put a bow on Louis and Cecilia's romance by showing us a scrapbook montage of how they're quite the little couple now, they say.
Well, yeah.
And they also toss in a real quick line, and they made up with their parents.
Yeah, it's like,
Wink.
it's also important.
That's fixed. No problem. They don't care where their kids went for this period of time.
Oh, no.
Totally fine.
I had no idea.
It was chaotic. It was strange.
Weird.
But this movie was also surprisingly wholesome compared to what I remember of it, because the darkness is what held in my mind.
Right.
So it was more wholesome than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And kind of more silly and whimsical.
Sure.
And it also may be part, who knows, of why I've never had the bully urge. I've never wanted to be mean. I've never wanted to inflict fear on somebody intentionally. Really, ever. That is not my MO. That is not my game.
Right.
And it may be in part because I carried the wisdom of this movie.
Aw.
Don't know.
You might be the only kid.
But I know where the anger comes from. I know and have known from a very young age that anger, in most cases, or a lot of cases, comes from fear.
Yep.
And in the end, we are also beaten over the head with the message, love sets us free.
Oh my God, yeah.
Love sets the dinosaurs free. It's the greatest force on earth, unless you're 10 and it's a kiss from a cute girl. And in that case, ew. Don't want it.
I don't understand. When she kissed him, it was gross. And when she told him that he should kiss her, it was cool. I don't get I don't understand.
They're both just trying to figure out how they feel. honestly. I think it's
because
just that
they're
they don't
like
know what
7
to do.
years old.
Yeah, they're little. They're kids.
They shouldn't be kissing.
They don't know what to do with this.
It's so weird.
I don't either. So, but that's We're Back.
That's We're Back. Oh, and also the little birdie learns that it's cool to be hugged on by your mom.
Oh, he does. Yeah, Rex. They go back to the bird. They have to back all the way out to that.
Your siblings giving you a hard time,
Yep.
and they're just giving you a hard time because they're jealous of the motherly love that you're getting,
the attention that you're getting,
mm-hmm.
and that's the way it is.
And that's the way it is. I can't even do it.
And that's the way it is.
That's the way it was,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the way. I like it.
I have one more tiny fun fact to close us out, and I just want to leave listeners with this.
I guess. Go ahead.
You ready?
Sure, whatever.
I'm going to go dark in a different way.
Let's do it.
To promote the release of We're Back, a giant helium balloon of Rex the T-Rex was included in the real-life 1993 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade
Okay.
in New York.
All right. I like the facial expressions you're making.
Unfortunately, high winds caught the balloon and floated it over a nearby sidewalk, where the head of the Rex balloon struck a streetlight and popped.
Yeah.
And the rest of the dinosaur's body remained inflated until the end of the parade.
Oh my God. Wait, was it a headless T-Rex?
Headless dinosaur.
Why didn't they
You're
just
welcome.
pull it to the side?
Don't know.
Oh my God. What?
I just wanted to leave you with that visual.
It's insane. That doesn't make any sense.
Of course, I was not there, so I can't confirm, but I did read it on the internet.
Oh, well, then it must be true. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's We're Back. We're back. We're done.
We're done with We're Back.
With this episode.
Mm-hmm.
A podcaster story. we're done. Wow. Well, that was fun.
What a time.
That was better than watching the movie itself.
I'm really glad you feel that way, because after you watched the movie, I was a little bit worried.
No, I'm always glad for the content. I'm glad. Look, we can talk about it. I can shit on it for 3 hours.
Sure.
That's fine. That's a fun time.
And a lot of people do shit on this movie, but
and they should.
I think it has redeeming qualities. Hopefully we've brought some to your attention today.
There are some. Like when I was watching it earlier today, I got past all the Manhattan stuff and I got to Central Park and I was like, oh, finally.
Yeah.
I can watch this part. Now it's fine.
I've always been curious how you would feel about Screw Eyes, so I'm glad we got to talk about that.
I like him. I do wish it had more of that Disney flair. That, you know.
A song, perhaps?
Well, not even a song. I don't care about that. But
I
like
want a song.
A true villain. You know, scary villain. But again, like I said, he's kind of all of us in a way. He was very human, and
Screw Eyes is all of us.
I appreciate
We are
that
Screw Eyes.
on a deeper level than I would just a pure scary villain.
Same. Me too.
He is the only villain I can think of that, well, he was driven by fear, but in a way where he was so visibly afraid, even early.
Most villains try to conceal that.
He was very afraid of the dinosaurs, of the crows, when you watch him closely. But most other villains tend to kind of keep it under wraps. You're right. I respect him, but I would have liked a much more iconic villain, Screw Eyes.
You would like Screw Eyes, the Professor's story.
Oh my God, that'd be a good movie.
Don't call us, Steven. We'll call you.
You can call us.
Just kidding. Please call us.
Steven, you're leaving money on the table. What are you doing?
Yeah, all that money that you made off of We're Back. Don't you want to do that again?
There's money to be made here, man. Yeah, wow. So that's that. That's We're Back. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
That was some great research.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that to our ears.
I was excited to do it. This was a fun one.
Yeah.
Hope you like it, listener. Let us know. Go leave a rating if you liked it specifically.
Yeah.
Go leave a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever it is that you happen to be listening. We would appreciate it.
Because if you're the one person who's given us a 1-star review, why? Why even do that?
I think it just legitimizes us, you know?
Just don't listen to the show.
It's true, though. I've never really understood that. Reviewing anything, unless it's like a
Go
really...
out
like,
of your way.
Don't get your oil change at oil change. I can say that and give them a 1-star review because of a terrible experience. But if it's media, if it's a movie or a show, if you didn't like it, just move on.
It's true.
Doesn't hurt anybody.
That's true.
I don't play that game.
No, I don't care enough.
Speaking of games, we're going to close out Are You Afraid of the Dark very soon.
Ooh, yeah, we will.
The Tale of the Pinball Wizard.
You said it. That's what's happening next. But we're going to leave our Christmas episode a secret. So you'll have to wait to find out. I got big ideas up in this noggin.
I know what they are.
Just big ideas and gin, currently. Well, thanks for playing, everybody. Thanks for listening. And we'll See you guys next
We
time.
appreciate you. Reach out on Instagram, email. We'd love to talk to you.
Keep it spooky. Keep it pretty dark.
Keep it pretty dark.
Eat your brain grain.
Eat your brain grain. Missed the opportunity for the ad.
Yep.
Yum.
Yum, yum.
Delicious and nutritious.
That's what I call lunch.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to That's Pretty Dark. Written and produced by Christian Baxter Mott and Kaylin Andrews.
Our music is composed by Jonathan Simmons, and our art is provided by Paige Garland at Power Girl Illustration.
Join the collective nostalgia and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at That's Pretty Dark Podcast.
Share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you're never really alone.
So, until next time, sweet dreams, everyone. Bleeb?
Bleeb.
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 Bleeb.